Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 645, Heaven and Earth Are Unkind. In the Black Warrior mech, Jiuying put his hands on the floating controller, and the neuron wiring was casually thrown on the ground. He did not connect the empathy system. Instead, he controlled the mech through his natural resonance ability. Xing and the other two were dead. The heavy mech and the forearm mech were all destroyed. Only the Black Warrior mech was intact. After disposing of Pankei's body, Jiuying drove the Black Warrior mech to explore the Danfeng Gymnasium. There were only Xing, Xingcheo, and Pankei in the trap last night. Zhuu and Tongyexin did not participate. This means that they have other tasks to do, or they are dealing with other things. Jiuying guessed that they might have rushed back to the Danfeng Gymnasium. There was originally a group of guardians around the ghost lantern, and later they were lent to Zhuu and the others to search for themselves. The ghost lantern is dead, and its guardians should be abnormal. For example, returning to the Danfeng Gymnasium, or losing control and scattering things. Either reaction is enough to make Zhuu realize that something is wrong with the Danfeng Gymnasium. Zhuu and the others worked so hard just for the heavenly worm pill in Jiuying's hand. It was reasonable for Zhuu and the others to leave the team and return to check after noticing something unusual happened in Danfeng Gymnasium. Therefore, Jiuying controlled the Black Warrior mech to go to Danfeng Gymnasium, and there was a certain chance to fish Zhuu out. Even if this was not a sure thing, it was better than looking for a needle in a haystack in the forbidden area. At this time, the Black Warrior mech passed by several buildings. Jiuying suddenly had an idea and looked down through the panoramic window. He saw Zhuu in a fiery red driving suit appearing in a fungus-covered passage between the two buildings, waving his hands vigorously. "Pankei, I'm here." Zhuu waved his hands, then took out a signal gun and released a striking red smoke in the direction of the mech. The Black Warrior mech stopped, turned around, then squatted down and stretched out a palm. Zhuu jumped onto the palm at once. She had been worried for most of the night. Without the protection of the mecha, even if she was at a high level, walking in the forbidden dangerous area was like hanging her head on her belt, and she could be in danger at any time. After all, for the giant beasts, even the lower level ones, humans are too small. The cultivators at a higher level still can't withstand the pressure of a lower level giant beast. It can be said that without the mecha, humans don't have the strength to fight against the giant beasts. When she came to the palm of the Black Warrior mecha, Zhuu breathed a sigh of relief and her mind became active. She gestured, wanting Pankei inside to turn on the mecha's sound external device and have a conversation. However, the Black Warrior mecha did not respond. Zhuu shuddered suddenly. She found a problem. Xing and Xingcheo's mechas were not at the scene. She wanted to jump out of the mecha's palm immediately. There is something strange. Something is wrong. However, before she jumped out of the mecha, the huge hand suddenly clenched, holding Zhuu tightly in the palm, with only the part above the chest exposed. Zhuu's pupils widened, and she burst out with Yuanli, trying to free herself from the palm of the mecha. But at this time, the Black Warrior mecha also rose up with the sun, and the golden light enveloped the mecha. The temperature around rose rapidly. Zhuu was very familiar with this kind of Yuanli phenomenon. Jiuying, Yan Yangjing. This confirmed her previous worries and guesses. Now it was not Pankei who was driving the Black Warrior mecha, but Jiuying. The combination of Xing and the other two was over. Despair surged in her heart. Zhuu's expression suddenly became ferocious, and she shouted in the direction of the Black Warrior mecha's cab. "Jiuying, if you kill me, the Penglai Zhu clan will not let you go. Even if you kill all of us, and only you go back, the Penglai Corps will ask about it. You want to stay out of it? No way. We lost a team and 5 mechas for no reason. For the Corps in the underground city, it is a huge fortune. They will not let you go. You will die ugly, haha." After shouting, the mecha did not move further. Zhuu regained some of her sanity and turned her brain to actively find a way to make a living. Seeing that Luo Yan did not move further, she thought that this student must be afraid. Yes, this Luo was just a survivor on the surface. Before entering the academy, he had no power or influence in the underground city. He entered the underground city by chance and achieved what he has today. This kind of person will definitely not give up his future easily. Suddenly, Zhuu had a lot of thoughts. She said softly again, Luo Yan, don't do stupid things. Killing me won't make things better. How about this? You escort me out of the forbidden area. I'll tell the core that we were attacked by a giant beast in the forbidden area. You can rest assured that I won't drag you into it. Besides, even if you want to accuse us of cooperating with Jiuying, but do you think anyone will believe such a ridiculous thing? Instead of being suspected later, it's better to cooperate with my sister. If you are worried that my sister will cross the river and burn the bridge, there is a way. I can give you my body. After this relationship, I will be your woman. By the way, our Zhu family has a certain reputation in Penglai. I will manage it for you. It will be easy for you to join the Xiangang Dragon Riders. You have a bright future. My sister's wife is honored by her husband. In the future, we will share happiness and difficulties. It's better than fighting to the death, don't you think? After speaking, Zhuu looked in the direction of the cab and suddenly felt a dark above her head. She looked up and saw a thumb of the mecha pressing towards her. Zhuu's pupils dilated and her expression was ferocious. Luo Yan, Yuking. Before the voice fell, the thumb had already pressed down. In the cab, Luo Yan watched Zhuu's biological grey light disappear in the palm of the mecha. He controlled the mecha again, made a throwing motion, and threw Zhuu's body into the depths of the forbidden area. It's over. Luo Yan exhaled lightly. When Zhu was talking non-stop just now, he took the opportunity to read the woman's mind. After getting the information that Tong Yixin also died in the Dongfeng Gymnasium, he killed her fiercely. At this point, the investigation team was completely wiped out. After Luo Yan dealt with the Black Warrior mecha, he drove the Bin out of the danger zone. Jinj City. Giant Beast Strategic Mansion. Gixu Civilization Research Laboratory. Wearing glasses and looking indifferent, Jiuying was facing 7 or 8 screens in front of him, and his hands kept tapping the keyboard. The automatic door of the laboratory opened, and Lin Wei, dressed in white, and with her hair combed, walked in. Teacher, I have something for you to look at. Jiuying paused, turning back to look at her most satisfied student. Lin Wei put a tablet on her desk. On the screen were ancient symbols similar to Tesu patterns. There was a line of notes below, which read, Heaven and earth are not benevolent, all things are straw dogs. Chapter 646 2 options. Heaven and earth are not kind, and all things are nothing but straw dogs. Looking at this line of annotation, Jiuying raised his glasses and looked at Lin Wei. You want to discuss the Tao Te Ching with me? Lin Wei shook her head. Pointing to the ancient characters, she said, this set of characters was asked to be deciphered by a classmate of mine. It took me a while to use the Gixu character code you wrote yourself, and the characters we have collected, sorted and successfully deciphered from Gixu over the years as references. Just now, I completely deciphered the characters on it, but I don't know if this is correct, so I would like to ask you to take a look. Jiuying raised the corner of her mouth slightly. Xiaolin, your attainments in deciphering Gixu characters are among the best in this field. Since you have deciphered this line of information, then I will decipher it in the same way. She looked at the screen and said, from the texts on the ancient artifacts unearthed from Gixu, it is obvious that there were some doctrines and theories from that period. They have all been passed down and have had a profound impact on later generations. In the spring and autumn period, some of the concepts in the Tao Te Ching written by Lao Tzu are similar to the doctrines on the ancient artifacts from Gixu. So now, it's not surprising that you have deciphered this set of information. It is possible that the real text is not these 8 characters, but the meaning should be similar. Jiuying stood up, picked up a cup of water, and walked towards the water dispenser. Heaven and earth are not benevolent, and treat all things as straw dogs. This is a sentence from the 5th chapter of the Tao Te Ching. The most superficial understanding is that heaven and earth are not benevolent, but just treat all things as lifeless tributes. However, if you connect this with the context, you will find that this understanding is biased. I agree with another explanation. Heaven and earth treat all things the same, neither being particularly good to anyone, nor being particularly bad to anyone, and everything develops naturally. In other words, no matter what all things become, it is their own behavior, including luck, and has nothing to do with heaven and earth. Heaven and earth let nature take its course, and everything is like the wind blowing into the night, moistening things silently. To be more concise, it is Tao follows nature. After pouring a glass of water, Jiuying returned to the table and looked at the tablet on the table. She took a sip of water and said, "Now there are words in Giksu that express similar views. It is very likely that the ancient civilization represented by Giksu had similar views on heaven and earth and nature at that time. This view may or may not be passed down to later generations. It is just consistent with the concept of the Tao Te Ching in later generations. So the system deciphered the 8-character message of heaven and earth are not benevolent. All things are straw dogs." Lin Wei listened and nodded. Jiuying put down the water cup and asked curiously, "However, normally, ordinary people have almost no channels to access the words in Giksu. Where did your classmate get these words?" Lin Wei shook her head. "He didn't say." Jiuying thought for a while and said, "Who is that classmate? Can you contact him and see where he came into contact with these words?" Lin Wei whispered, "Luo Yan, he should be in the forbidden area, in the demon fungus city now. **** safe zone camp. Luo Yan and Wei Fenghe are in the command room. There are only the two of them here. Luo Yan just showed Wei Fenghe the video footage in the forbidden area." After watching the conversation between Zhuu and Jiuying, Wei Fenghe said in shock, "Incredible. Incredible. The behemoth actually has such intelligence. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never believe it." Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "I was also surprised, but this should be a special case. Otherwise, it has been 4 years since the natural disaster, and now there are behemoths with extraordinary intelligence everywhere." Wei Fenghe smiled. "That's a blessing, otherwise we would definitely have a headache." He took out the memory card from the card reader. "This team of the Penglai Corps colluded with the behemoth and wanted to plot against you and Bayan. It's understandable that you wiped them all out. What to do next is the problem. I have 2 plans now. One is that you pretend to be confused and keep the fact that Zhuu and others colluded with the behemoth to yourself and don't mention it to outsiders. Then say that you encountered a behemoth in the forbidden area and the upper level yin wood can be used as a shield. In the forbidden dangerous area, there are examples of being wiped out by the upper level if you are not careful. Your Bayan has the ability of invisibility, and now with the blessing of the transcendence mode, its survivability has been greatly enhanced. It is also a divine guard body, and you are a high level cultivator. With these conditions added together, it is completely reasonable that you can survive. But even so, Penglai has lost a team for no reason, and they will still launch an investigation. As for what they can find out in the end, it's hard to say." After a pause, Wei Fenghe coughed twice and said again, "The second option is for us to take the initiative. I will back up this video and then send it to Dezeng. Next, Dezeng will file a complaint with Penglai in the name of the underground city, accusing that the personnel of their corps colluded with the giant beasts and endangered the residents of the underground city and the students of the academy, that is, you. We took the initiative to attack, and with the evidence in hand, we can completely put a hat on Penglai. We have every reason to suspect whether there are still people in their group who are colluding with the giant beasts. Of course, such a thing will definitely become a quibble and have no results in the end. The advantage is that it will shift the focus of the incident from you wiping out one of their teams to Penglai proving its innocence. Even if they want to make trouble for you, it will be after they have cleared themselves of suspicion." Luo Yan said without thinking, "The second option is better. Although the first option is convenient, once the Penglai Corps finds out something, even if I have evidence in hand, I can't explain it clearly. It's not appropriate to present the evidence directly. So, the second option is the safest." Wei Fenghe nodded. "Okay, then follow the second plan. You are tired too. Go and have a rest. Leave the rest to me. Luo Yan naturally trusted him, nodded and left. A week passed in a blink of an eye. Since Wei Fenghua sent the evidence to Guangling City, there has been no movement in Penglai City. On this day, the first year students' forbidden area activities ended, and the Mecha escorted the academy convoy back to the Red Moon base, planning to rest for a day or two before returning to Guangling City. Arrived at the base, Bei wanted to see Zhao Keitong, and Luo Yan had no objection. The two bought some food as gifts in the base, and came to the refugee resettlement site. I didn't expect to walk into the resettlement site, but I saw a row of houses burned down here. The medical staff of the base went in and out here, set up tents one by one, and provided temporary medical assistance to the injured refugees. Chapter 647 Moon Bear Camp. 5 minutes later, Luo Yan came out of the resettlement site with a gloomy expression. Bei looked at him worriedly. Luo Yan pulled her aside and said, "Last night, the resettlement site caught fire and burned some people. No one died. It's just that some people are missing, including Tao Yu and Keitong." Bei's face changed. An orphan and a widow suddenly disappeared. It was not a good thing, no matter how you think about it. Luo Yan was about to say something. His expression moved slightly, and then he turned around. 3 or 5 people walked towards him, several men and a woman. Luo Yan remembered the man in front. He was LV Mao, the owner of the weapons store who forced the sale that day. A woman in her 30s next to LV Mao was holding a baby, but it was Tao Yu's child, Keitong. What was going on? Luo Yan narrowed her eyes slightly and tightened the dragon elephant in her hand. When they came nearby, LV Mao smiled. "You two are finally back." Bei also recognized the baby in LV Mao's hand. She glanced at Luo Yan and didn't rush to ask for the person. Luo Yan said calmly, "Are you waiting for me?" Lu Mao nodded repeatedly and then said, "Last night, a big fire broke out at the resettlement site, and I happened to have a friend here to do something. When he saw the fire, he immediately went to help save people and ended up rescuing this child in a shed. I asked someone and found out that this child and his mother were both escorted here by your school not long ago. So as soon as I knew that you were back, I brought the little guy here. Classmates, who of you can hold him?" Circles of fire appeared in Luo Yan's eyes, and his Wu Wang Zuan was activated to read Lu Mao's thoughts. Does this gentleman hate children? Did I flatter the wrong person? I also want to get in touch with him, so that I can plan for the identity of a resident of the underground city. It seemed that Lu Mao had no ill intentions, so Luo Yan nodded slightly to Bei. Bei immediately stepped forward and took Keitong from the woman. Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "There was a fire last night, and some people are missing. His mother is also missing. Do you know anything?" Since LV Mao asked him for help, Luo Yan would not be polite. Moreover, a local tyrant like LV Mao is 100 times more informed than himself. That's why Luo Yan asked this question. LV Mao lowered his voice and said, "Classmate, there are many people here. Can you talk to me?" A moment later, Luo Yan and his friend came to LV Mao's house. Tea was served. LV Mao said, "To be honest, classmate, I know what happened. But I have to survive in the base after all. If I tell you the truth, there will be no place for me here." Luo Yan already knew what he wanted, and without wasting time, he said directly, "Then change places. If you are interested in living in the underground city, I can help you find a way." He controls the underground organization Red Gate, so it is not difficult to get LV Mao a resident identity. LV Mao was overjoyed. He didn't expect Luo Yan to be so sensible and nodded immediately. "Then there's no problem. Classmate, the mother of this child and the missing people were all captured by ZHU Hei." Luo Yan muttered the name. "ZHU Hei? Yes, that guy is a human trafficker." LV Mao gritted his teeth and said emotionally, "He came to me the night after you left. He took a fancy to the refugees you escorted, especially the mother of this little guy. The young mother is quite pretty, and she is a top-notch meat ginseng. On the surface, and even in the underground city, there are many people who like this. The man surnamed ZHU heard that I had a little unpleasant experience with you too, so he wanted to instigate me to do it with him. But as for human trafficking, the man surnamed Lu disdains to do such a sinful thing. I refused on the spot and warned him not to mess around, but I didn't expect that the man surnamed ZHU still did it. Luo Yan stared at him with his Wu-Wang burning eyes the whole time. Although LV Mao and his inner voice were slightly different from what he said, they were generally consistent. So he said, "Do you know where they are now?" Lu Mao nodded. "There is a camp 200 kilometers away from here. Moon Bear Camp. It's called a camp, but it's actually a den of robbers. The Moon Bear Camp is full of murderers, robbers, thieves and the like. In addition, it also provides a trading location for people like ZHU Hei and collects commissions from it. ZHU Hei always conducts transactions in the Moon Bear Camp. As for who his buyer is this time and where in the camp the transaction is, I don't know. But you can go to the Wasp Bar in the Moon Bear Camp to ask. The Wasp Bar is also the place where people like ZHU Hei meet with sellers. You should be able to find out there." Luo Yan stood up. "Give me the coordinates of the Moon Bear Camp." That night, an off-road vehicle arrived at the Moon Bear Camp. After paying taxes, the car entered the camp. After parking the car in the gravel parking lot, two people jumped out of the car. "Mr. Luo, please follow me." The voice of his companion interrupted Luo Yan's observation of the camp. Pulling up the hood and carrying the dragon elephant, Luo Yan's eyes returned to this companion. "This is LV Mao's buddy. LV Mao is very concerned about this matter. He sent a car and people to bring Luo Yan to this camp. Later, they came to the Wasp Bar. The Wasp Bar is in a 3-story building. The rooms on each floor of the building are connected. The walls are painted with red and green graffiti. The red and green fluorescent lights are intertwined, making the bar full of the psychedelic atmosphere of feasting and revelry. Here, there are various high-legged round tables, leather sofas, high-legged chairs and a bar with light tubes embedded." Luo Yan walked in and looked around. There were men and women whistling at each other everywhere. The men here were shirtless and covered with various tattoos. The women were dressed in revealing and exaggerated clothes. The dancers who were dancing pole dance on the stage on the first floor were even thinner. From time to time, men jumped onto the stage, carried the women they liked, and ran to the second floor. LV Mao's men took Luo Yan to the bar. Suddenly, he looked at a corner of the bar and whispered to Luo Yan, "We really came to the right place." The man with the phoenix tail hair in the middle of the table near the window in the southwest corner is ZHU Hei's right-hand man, Red Falcon. Luo Yan tilted his head to look. There were 3 men and 4 women sitting next to a high-legged round table near the window in the southwest corner. The man in the middle had a phoenix tail hair, bronze skin, and a red flying bird tattoo on his shoulder. The man was holding a girl, and his hand kept sliding restlessly under the girl's clothes. Probably sensing Luo Yan's gaze, he raised his head, his eyes were fierce, and he grinned, and made a throat-wiping gesture to Luo Yan. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 648, overwhelming the whole audience. Luo Yan turned around and whispered, "You go first. Find a safe place to hide, or leave the camp first." Lu Mao's men were startled, then a look of respect surged in their eyes, and they lowered their voices and said, "Please be careful." After the companions left, Luo Yan stood up, took a step, and walked towards Han Falcon. The 3 men on Han Falcon's side were flirting with the woman, and Luo Yan also heard one of them teasing him. When Luo Yan came to their table and bent down to sit at the table opposite Han Falcon, the atmosphere suddenly became cold. Han Falcon's nose wings expanded slightly, patted the woman on his legs, and signaled them to go away. Several women left with a smile and went to the bar, still looking at Han Falcon's side. Luo Yan said indifferently, "Where is ZHU Hei?" Han Falcon grinned and said, "Little bastard, you dare to ask about Mr. ZHU. You are very brave. You want to know? I will burn the answer for you when you die." On the left and right, 2 figures suddenly stood up and took out the pistols at their waists. Hong Shen grinned and could already imagine that in the next second Luo Yan's head would be flipped over and then blood plasma would spray all over the floor. Then, blood plasma sprayed left and right, and a few drops of warm blood fell on Hong Shen's face. But it was not Luo Yan who sprayed blood plasma, but the men on the left and right of Hang Shen. Two heads flew high, one fell on a nearby wine table, and the other rolled to the feet of the women. Exclamations, curses, and screams. The wasp bar was immediately in chaos. Hang Shen did not expect that Luo Yan's actions were so fast. His two companions had just taken out their guns. They were already beheaded. With the dragon elephant in his hand, Luo Yan picked it up, and the wine table split apart. He strode forward and kicked. The soul of his shoe was printed on Hang Shen's face, pressing him against the wall behind him, so that his head was pressed against the wall. Hang Shen felt his breathing quicken, and reached out to take out his gun. The dragon elephant passed by, blood plasma sprayed, and all 5 fingers of Hang Shen's hand fell off. "Ah, you bastard." Hang Shen screamed, and when he looked up, he saw the devil-like figure under the red and green lights of the bar. His 2 red eyes looked down, and looked at him coldly, as if he was looking at a corpse. He immediately swallowed the curse words that were about to come out of his mouth and shouted, "The one with the red lantern hanging in front of the door in the warehouse area on the west side of the camp." The foot that stepped on his face retracted. Then the dragon elephant touched his chest and retracted. Hang Shen was stunned for a moment, watching a little red blush appear on his chest, and then the red blush quickly expanded, and finally he lost consciousness. The heavy sword touched the wooden floor of the bar, and Luo Yan dragged the sword, and the tip of the sword dragged a smooth crack on the wooden floor. Behind the bar counter of the bar, a rough man with a red turban suddenly took out a shotgun from under the cabinet. He roared, "No one can kill people in the Hornet Bar." In response, he was responded by a sword light. The man, the gun, and the bar counter were split into 2 pieces with a bang. "You dare to kill our Jiuying? Everyone, grab your weapons and attack together," a man wearing a white hat shouted. Then the man's head left his body. A pale man with dark circles under his eyes gritted his teeth and said, "This is the Moon Bear camp. You are against the entire camp." Luo Yan stopped, glanced at him lightly and said, "So what?" He looked around and said lightly, "Does anyone else want to say anything?" The dozens of people on the first floor of the bar all lowered their heads subconsciously when Luo Yan's eyes touched them. The raging arrogance in those red eyes suppressed no one at the scene to say a word. Luo Yan then walked out of the bar quietly. The warehouse area of the Moon Bear camp. In a warehouse with a red lantern hanging in front of the door, a scream suddenly rang out. "You crazy woman. I'll fucking beat you to death." A man with pock marks on his face raised a long whip and was about to whip it hard. His hand was bitten hard by a woman with her hands tied behind her back, and blood splattered everywhere. But the whip was caught by a hand. Mozzie turned around and roared, "Who the hell is meddling in my business?" A slap made him see stars, and then he saw clearly that the person holding his hand was Jiuying, who had a face full of flesh. Jiuying snorted and said, "What did I say? Don't hit her. If she has injuries on her body, she won't be sold at a good price." Mozzie wanted to cry, but had no tears, and he bit his hand. "Mr. Zhu, this crazy woman bites people randomly." Jiuying sneered and looked at the woman and said, "If you don't listen, you will never see your child again in this life." The woman raised her head, quickly let go, and then cried, "Give K-Tong back to me, give K-Tong back to me." Her hair was disheveled, and she looked like an evil ghost. It was Tao Yu. After being tied up by Jiuying, she almost collapsed, and now the child was her last thought. "Be quiet, tomorrow, I will return the child to you." Hearing what Jiuying said, Tao Yu nodded and sat on a chair. Jiuying winked again, and Mozzie brought a bowl of millet porridge with a miserable look and placed it next to Tao Yu. "Eat it, take a nap, and everything will be fine." Tao Yu picked up the bowl of millet porridge and ate it up in a few bites. Jiuying then said to Mozzie, "Keep an eye on her, you useless guy." Then he walked out of the room. Outside the room, in the warehouse, there were iron cages full of kidnapped refugees. Their treatment was not as good as Tao Yu's. 3 or 4 people were squeezed into a cage. The cage was not big, and the people inside could not stand, but could only sit. They had no food, and most of their bodies were covered with wounds. Obviously, they had been punished, and more than once or twice. Some of these people were even dying. Jiuying didn't even look at these refugees. He walked to the door and frowned. Has that bastard Hang Swan not come back yet? Not back yet, Mr. ZHU. Or Thug said cautiously. Bastard. I told him that there would be customers coming to pick up the goods tonight, but he ignored my words. ZHU Hay was angry. At this time, the door opened, and a subordinate ran in. Mr. ZHU, the guests have arrived. A car stopped outside the warehouse, and several people got out one after another. One of them had shiny hair, wore gold-rimmed glasses, and covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief as he walked into the warehouse. ZHU Hay immediately put on a smiling face. Mr. Zeng, good evening. Good evening, Boss ZHU. This kind of place is really unbearable. Let's do the deal quickly. Mr. Zeng covered his mouth and nose and said, you said there are top quality goods. Take me to see. ZHU Hay immediately led him to Guanteo's room, opened the window, and looked inside and said, 22 years old, the skin is so good. As a new mother, she is still in the breastfeeding period. There should be many people who like this. Mr. Zeng, there are not many good goods like this on the surface of the earth. Chapter 649. The 3-foot sword can only clear away the injustice in front of you. Just as ZHU Hay and the man surnamed Zeng were exchanging glances and discussing the price of pottery jade, next to the gate, one of ZHU Hay's men was squatting in the corner, yawning out of boredom. Dang dang dang. There was a knock on the door. The thug stood up. Brother Hang Shan is back. He opened the door and was about to speak when a sword blade stabbed in from the gate that was only a crack open. The thug immediately stepped back, covered his throat, unable to speak, and looked at the pair of red eyes outside the door in horror. Then he fell to the ground. It was not until he fell to the ground that blood spurted out of his throat, scaring the other thugs in the warehouse. What happened to Liu? Who did it? Hearing these voices in the warehouse, Liu Yan's face was calm, and he gently pushed open the door. He had already used the Wu Wang burning eyes to confirm what kind of people there were, and he was sure that he had not killed the wrong people. When he pushed the door open, a group of eyes, some shocked and some confused, looked at Liu Yan in unison. ZHU Hay and Mr. Zeng also stopped talking, and both looked at Liu Yan, the uninvited guest, with some doubts. After a moment, someone saw a sword blade sticking out of Liu Yan's cloak, and blood was dripping on it. The man immediately shouted, he killed Liu. Fuck him. Or thug immediately took out a pistol from his waist, and was about to raise it. A flash of sword light swept across, and the head on his neck flew up. The headless corpse staggered for several seconds, before falling to the ground. Such a cruel scene made all the thugs in the warehouse stunned. Liu Yan leaned forward, slashing with the dragon elephant in his hand, and another head flew into the sky. Others reacted, either raising their guns and firing, or outflanking from behind. Liu Yan had already put on a golden armor for himself, and a few dragon scales appeared secretly. In this state, he dared to take the bullets from the sniper rifle, let alone these pistols. Ignoring the rain of bullets from all directions, Liu Yan rushed into ZHU Zuan's men like a tiger into a flock of sheep. The dragon elephant sword flashed, constantly avoiding human bodies. In less than a minute, the warehouse was filled with flesh, bones, and pulp, like a hell of Shura. Mr. Zeng was so scared that he turned pale and collapsed on the ground, pointing at Liu Yan and screaming, "Kill him! Kill him!" The bodyguards he brought with him quickly took out their rifles. Their weapons were much better than ZHU Hay's. There were automatic rifles, and some threw grenades at Liu Yan. But everything was in vain. Liu Yan's figure flashed, and his footwork switched back and forth between Daozu and crossing Yui and Dragonfly touching water. In a few breaths, he stood in front of Mr. Zeng and ZHU Hay, and those bodyguards either had their heads cut off, or their bodies cut into several pieces. The strong smell of blood rushed straight to his forehead, and Mr. Zeng's pants were already wet, and he screamed, "You can't kill me. I'm the shepherd in the shepherds. If you kill me, the whole shepherds will." Before he finished speaking, Mr. Zeng's head left his body. The world kept spinning in his wide open eyes. Finally, he saw his headless body sitting on the ground, blood spurting from his neck. ZHU Hay was sweating profusely, watching the cloaked man gently lift his hood, revealing black hair and red eyes. He suddenly remembered something. He exclaimed, "It's you. The student who smashed Lu Mao's stall." Are you crazy? What are you going to do? Luo Yan glanced at the window behind him. He whispered, come and find someone. She is a mother. The child is still young and can't live without a mother. Zhuhei was stunned, as if he had heard some Arabian Nights fairy tale. Just because of this? Aren't you a resident of the dungeon? What does a refugee from the surface have to do with you? There are many children without mothers in this world. Can you help them? Luo Yan shook his head. I can't help. But I can help the one in front of me. The heavy sword slashed down. A wave of blood splashed on the window. In the room, Tao Yu huddled in the corner. From just now, she heard screams, gunshots, and roars outside. She didn't know what happened outside, and her instinct made her hide. At this time, she saw the door open, and a figure walked in with a strong bloody smell. When she saw the young face under the light, Tao Yu thought she was dazzled and exclaimed in disbelief. Brother Luo, is that you? Luo Yan saw her, nodded slightly, walked over to untie the rope that bound her hands, and then took off the cloak and put it on her. Let's go. Xiao Tong is still waiting for you. Tao Yu burst into tears. Thank you, thank you. Luo Yan took her out of the room and rescued other refugees. At this time, someone outside the warehouse shouted, listen, people inside, you have been surrounded. Get out now. Luo Yan whispered, wait for me here. He dragged the heavy sword and walked out of the warehouse. Outside the warehouse, the lights were bright. 4 or 5 modified off-road vehicles, dozens of heavy motorcycles, and hundreds of people, armed with guns and swords, surrounded the warehouse. Luo Yan stood under the bright lights, his eyes calm. At this time, a sturdy man came out and said, you are the one who killed people in the Hornet Bar? Luo Yan admitted generously. At this time, another pineapple-headed man ran to the man and whispered something. The man's face changed. What? Zhuhei and the people of the shepherd are all dead. Damn it, did you do it? Luo Yan said put down your weapons and surrender. Otherwise, don't blame us moon bears for being rude. No matter how good you are, you can't protect the people inside. The man roared. Behind him, dozens of rifles were pointed at the warehouse, and there were even a few rocket launchers. Luo Yan said calmly, of course I can't protect so many people, but I want to leave, and you can't stop me. I will come back after I leave. Next time I come back, I will raise the moon bear camp. You, every one of you, your family, friends, and everyone who has a relationship with you. Kill them all without leaving a single one. No loud roar. No harsh voice. Luo Yan was very calm as if he was stating a fact. The faces of the people in the moon bear camp kept changing. At this time, someone sighed. You won. We can't afford to mess with people like you. An old man came over. He was the leader of the moon bears. The old man waved his hand and asked them to disperse. Young man, go ahead and take your people with you. Luo Yan looked into the warehouse and said, I need a car. A moment later, a truck arrived at the warehouse door. Tao Yu and other refugees got on the truck, and Luo Yan nodded to the old man and said, thank you. Then, Luo Yan drove the truck away. The old man laughed dryly. This young man is quite polite. He continued, okay, why are you still standing there? Clean up the warehouse. Zhuhei, this unlucky guy, got implicated by him this time. Chapter 650 Penglai Core. At noon the next day, Luo Yan could already see the wall of the Red Moon base. Sitting next to him in the co-pilot seat, Tao Yu's face was full of excitement at the thought of seeing her child. However, Luo Yan didn't smile much. In fact, his eyes became colder. Because outside the camp, he found a lot more mechs. A total of 9 mechs, with different shapes, facing Liu Ruohan's mechs from a distance, with a sense of tension. Luo Yan drove the car directly to the school camp. Last night, when he went to the Moon Bear camp alone, Bei carried Xiao Tong to the school camp to report. Xiao Tong should also be in the school camp now. Squeak. The tires rubbed against the grass on the ground and stopped in the school camp. As soon as Luo Yan got out of the car, he saw Bei holding Xiao Tong. Soon, the child was handed over to Tao Yu, and several first-year students took the refugees rescued by Luo Yan to rest aside. Luo Yan asked, what's going on? He looked at the mechs in the distance. Bay's face was tense. The Penglay Corps came this morning and wanted to see you. They said they wanted to see you, but they were aggressive and probably wanted to take you away. Teacher Wei immediately asked Ruohan and the others to get on the mecha to prevent any accidents. He went to the front of the battle to negotiate with the Penglay Corps. Teacher Wei said that you should not show up after you come back. At this time, several mechs of the Penglay Corps began to move, and all the mechs stepped forward. It seems that Wei Fenghua's negotiations with the other party were not going smoothly. Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "I'll go and see." Bei shouted, "I'll go with you." The two came to the outside of the camp and saw Wei Fenghua standing in a row with several teachers from a distance. In front of the teachers were 3 people wearing corps uniforms. The leader had an upright posture and sharp eyes. Beside him was a pair of young men and women, both of whom were outstanding. At this time, Luo Yan heard Wei Fenghua's voice. "This matter should be handled by our Guangling underground city through negotiation with you. Now your Penglay Corps wants us to hand over the person without saying anything. This is unreasonable." The senior officer of the Penglay Corps said calmly, "Teacher Wei, our corps absolutely respects the academy. However, as you said just now, this matter should be negotiated between Guangling underground city and us. 100 Battles Academy should not represent Guangling underground city, right? Now, your student surnamed Luo is involved in the death of 5 elite mecha divisions of our team. We ask to bring him back to Penglay for further investigation. Is that too much?" Wei Fenghua said in a flat tone, but without any room for buffer. 100 Battles Academy naturally cannot represent the entire underground city, but Luo Yan is a student of our academy, and we must protect his safety. Even if he is involved in the death of 5 mecha divisions of your corps, we have the right and obligation to ensure that he is treated fairly and openly, instead of letting the Penglay Corps take him away. The senior leaders of the Penglay Corps burst out laughing. "Teacher Wei, that's too much. Could it be that our corps would frame a student? We just want to find out as soon as possible what happened in the forbidden area that day." Wei Fenghua smiled and said, "If you just want to know what happened in the forbidden area, I think Guangling should have provided you with sufficient information. Isn't that enough?" The senior leaders of Penglay kept smiling. "Rather than information, we want to hear what the parties involved have to say." "Okay, Teacher Wei, I can understand the position of the academy. Please also consider it for us. An investigation team, 5 powerful mecha divisions, and 5 mechs. I believe that such a loss is not a small number in any corps. If, after losing so many people and things, we don't even have a chance to investigate and understand. Teacher Wei, don't you think this is too unreasonable? We have the reason, the right, and the obligation to ask classmate Luo Yan to go to Penglay for investigation. If the academy still wants to stop it, then unfortunately, I'm afraid we can only resort to force." Wei Fenghua coughed twice and was about to say something when a voice sounded behind him. "Teacher, I have a clear conscience. Let me go with them." Luo Yan. Swish. Eyes from both the academy and Penglay fell on him. A strange color flashed in the eyes of the Penglay senior executive, and then he smiled and said, "You must be Luo Yan, right? I'm the colonel of the Penglay Corps. My name is Liu Zheng." Wei Fenghua turned around and lowered his voice and said, "Didn't I tell you not to come out?" Luo Yan looked back at Liu Ruohan and their mechas and said, "This is my business. I don't want my classmates to get hurt. Besides, I will be fine. They came to me so openly. If something happens to me in Penglay, they will have a hard time explaining it." Luo Yan didn't lower his voice when he said the last sentence, so Penglay could hear it too. Liu Zheng laughed dryly and said to the 2 people next to him, "Luo Yan is really a quick-witted person." Unfortunately, the 2 young men and women couldn't laugh at all now. They all had dark faces, obviously because of Luo Yan's words. Wei Fenghua glanced at Liu Zheng and nodded, saying, "Okay, you go with them first. I'll go to Penglay after I finish arranging the academy's affairs. I'll tell Zheng about this. I don't think they dare to mess around in Penglay." Luo Yan nodded and walked towards Penglay. The woman in her 20s stepped forward and stretched out her white and tender hand, saying, "Please hand over your weapons to us for safekeeping." Luo Yan raised his eyebrows slightly, and his sharp eyes stung the other person's eyes. "Am I a criminal?" The woman's chest rose and fell slightly, and she was about to say something when she heard Liu Zheng say, Jiuying, it's over. The colonel smiled again and said, don't worry, classmate Liu Yan. Before we figure out the ins and outs of this matter, you are not a criminal, and you can't even be called a suspect. We also want to thank you for cooperating with the investigation. Please. Liu Yan then passed by the woman surnamed Yang and got on an off-road vehicle designated by Liu Zheng. After Liu Yan got on the car, the mechs in Penglai called off and returned to their respective mecha carriers. Afterwards, the convoy of the Penglai Call left the Red Moon base in a mighty manner and disappeared from the sight of Wei Fenghe and others. In the wilderness, the hot wind blew in the face. Liu Yan, who was sitting in the back seat, did not speak. But Liu Zheng, who was sitting in the front co-pilot seat, was very talkative. To be honest, classmate Liu. In fact, we have long been suspicious of ZHUU's team. They covered it up very well, but in the past 6 months, they have been entering and leaving the forbidden area too frequently. And every time the soldiers who entered the forbidden area with them, none of them came back, and the death rate was surprisingly high. We didn't understand it before, but now it seems that those soldiers were probably used by them as favors. Chapter 651, Dignity. Liu Yan raised his head and his eyes fell on Liu Zheng's face in front of him. Liu Zheng, wearing a pair of sunglasses, continued. We asked experts to analyze the information provided by your Guangling, and the possibility of falsification has been ruled out. So we believe that ZHUU and the others are indeed colluding with the giant beast. To be honest, although we are willing to believe it, I'm still shocked until now. The giant beast actually has such intelligence, it is even studying things in biology. This is really unbelievable. Liu Yan then said, Jiuying. My guess is that Jiuying made it evolve extraordinary abilities. Liu Zheng nodded. This is the only explanation. Liu Yan thought for a while and said, since you are inclined to believe the information, why? Liu Zheng laughed. Why do you still have to use a tough attitude to ask you to assist in the investigation? Liu Yan said softly. Classmate, you are really frugal with words. People like you, to put it in a bad way, are too cunning. To put it in a good way, you are mature beyond your years. However, I don't hate people like you. Those young people who are full of energy and croak like frogs are the ones who give people a headache. After Liu Zheng joked for a while, his face became serious, and he said in a deep voice, there are 2 reasons. One is the face of the Penglai Corps and even the entire Penglai city. It's not impossible for us to admit that ZHUU and others colluded with the giant beast, but we can't be so sloppy. Moreover, if we admit it, just because of a piece of information, it will give outsiders a guilty feeling. Especially the residents of this city. What will they think? They will probably think that there are so many people in the core who are colluding with the giant beast. But these are not the most important things. The most important thing is that if people know that the giant beast has such intelligence, it will cause panic. So even if it's some nonsense, even if it's just for outsiders to see, we must show a tough attitude. We have to convey a message to the outside world. The core and the underground city have no idea what ZHUU and the others have done, so we must bring the person involved, that is, you, to the underground city for necessary investigation. Even if we have to admit that ZHUU and the others deserve to die, this matter must be handled honorably. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But this is a reality. If we don't do this, the mecha divisions in the core will lose confidence in the core first. What we are doing now is just like what the academy has done for you. It's the same reason. Liu Yang nodded gently. I understand. What about the second one? Liu Zheng smiled and said, the second one, you will know soon. Next, the colonel refused to reveal anything. Liu Yan was about to open the Wuang Zuan to see what this Liu was up to, but suddenly realized that their off-road vehicle seemed to have strayed too far from the team. Now, they were driving in a vast wilderness, with an endless forest in the distance. The off-road vehicle passed through the wilderness, and the tires stirred up waves of strong earthy smells. From time to time, animals like roe deer would be startled out of the grass. Suddenly, the off-road vehicle stopped, and the car made a sharp brake sound. A few blades of grass were blown by the wind and flew past Liu Yan's face. In front of the car, Liu Zheng stood up, patted his legs and said, "Some old friends heard that you took on 5 major divisions of the Corps. They are a little unconvinced. They feel that their former colleagues were crushed by a child and they feel ashamed. So, they want to learn from you. Don't worry, I have told them they will not hurt your life. You can also let go, of course, if you surrender. I don't think they will be shameless to do it." Liu Zheng jumped out of the car, patted the door and said, "This is the second reason. A team of the Corps was killed by a student. This is a bit unbelievable. Compared to the complicated investigation procedures, we prefer to use the most direct and straightforward means to confirm whether you are lying. So when these old friends asked me that they wanted to weigh your ability, I agreed. Of course, I will be responsible for the consequences of this matter." After that, Liu Zheng and the driver walked away. On the edge of the forest in the distance, figures walked out. Liu Yan didn't move and then spoke in a voice that only he could hear. "Wait. Be careful not to twist your hand." He stood up and got off the car. The dragon elephant was in his hand. Liu Yan looked up. In the distance, the figures of people coming out of the woods were already very clear. 8 people. There were men and women. The one walking in the front was wearing a long black windbreaker, a white vest inside, dark green overalls, and a pair of mountain boots. He had well-proportioned muscles, a flat head, and sharp edges. Wu Wangzuan looked at him. Zhang Shu, 38 years old, a former member of the Penglai Corps. Realm, Advanced Level 4. Then he looked at the others. There was a slender woman with camouflage painted on her face and a ponytail, a middle-aged man with messy hair and an eye mask on his face, a young man with eyeshadow and eyeliner and a feminine look, and a girl with yellow hair, freckles on her face, and a pair of slippers. Tang Yan, Huo Long, Liu Chunhei, Zuok. All of them are former members of the Penglai Corps. Their realms are either the first or second level of the advanced realm, or the intermediate level of great perfection. Liu Yan's face was calm, and he said softly, "All of them are the backbone of the Corps, with no missing limbs. Why do they choose to retire at this age?" He didn't say anything else, but he had a guess in his mind. Over there, the former Corps members led by Zhang Shu came to the grass 100 steps away. Zhang Shu, who was wearing a long black windbreaker, said loudly, "Student Liu Yan, Colonel Liu should have told you, so I won't say more. This matter has nothing to do with the Corps. It's purely because we have nothing to do. Even if we want to make trouble for you, you can also regard it as a personal grudge. If you want to get back at us, or take revenge afterwards, it doesn't matter, just come after us." Liu Yan said coldly. He is not over 40 years old, but he retired from the Corps. After all, isn't it just to sever ties with the Corps? At this point, why are you still talking so high-minded? Come on. Zhang Shu and others all looked a little ugly. Huo Long, with messy black hair and an eye mask, said softly, "Smelly boy, you are so sharp-tongued." Tang Yan, with her long hair tied into a ponytail and wearing a short windbreaker, said with a smile, "What he said was not wrong. We are just because a team was overthrown by a student, and we are dissatisfied and want to get back at him. What about weighing his ability and confirming whether he is lying? They are all excuses. We didn't do a good job in this matter, so it's only right that people criticize us." Then she walked towards Liu Yan. Suddenly, there was a strong wind and fire around her, and the wild airflow and blazing flames entangled around her. "I'll go first." Tang Yan, Advanced Level 1. Chapter 652, Strong Crush. Guangling City. Zheng was in a meeting. Now the meeting had come to the last stage. At this time, the door of the conference hall opened. People looked over and saw Liang Jian, dressed in military uniform, walked in. Many people frowned. The people here were well dressed and well mannered. Suddenly, Liang Jian, who was wearing a military uniform, ran in and seemed out of place. Liang Jian had a strong smell of tobacco on him, which made many people who didn't like smoking shake their heads. Liang Jian ignored him and stepped into the hall where the high-level officials of Guangling City gathered. He had just returned from the training ground, and his footprints were muddy and fell on the polished floor. He came to Zheng. "What's the matter?" Zheng looked up. Liang Jian bent down and whispered, Xiao Luo was taken away. Suddenly, the temperature in the conference room dropped significantly, and it returned to normal after a few seconds. Zheng stood up and said calmly, Secretary Liu will speak for me next. I have something to deal with, so I'll leave first. After speaking, he, the city lord, took Liang Jian out of the conference hall. Office. Zheng took off his coat, unbuttoned his shirt, and pulled up his sleeves. He opened the window and said, what's going on? Teacher Wei called just now, and said that this morning, the Penglai Corps came to the camp to ask for people. Xiao Luo was worried that there would be a conflict and his classmates would get hurt, so he left with the Penglai people. Liang Jian said with a dark face. Zheng snorted. I have already informed Penglai, and they have agreed to wait for me to deal with the matters at hand, and then go to Penglai in person, to investigate the matter with them. The Penglai Corps is really anxious. They took the person away before I did. Liang Jian tentatively asked, do you want me to call the Penglai Corps? Zheng raised his eyebrows. Why call now? You immediately lead 2 teams, take the mecha, and go to Penglai to keep an eye on the person for me. I will contact the strategic office now, and request a third-party arbitration on this matter. Liang Jian said worriedly, what about Luo Yan? Zheng raised the corner of his mouth at this time. What are you afraid of? That kid is not an easy person to deal with. The Penglai Corps came to ask for people openly. I don't think they dare to hurt his life. Worrying about Xiao Luo is worse than worrying about some people not being able to get their revenge. Maybe they will have to slap them a few more times. Zheng looked at the city outside the window and said, what we should worry about is not Xiao Luo's safety. What we should worry about is Penglai making a fuss about this incident. Asterisk 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 bang. The wind blew in Liu Zheng's face. The paper cup in Liu Zheng's hand shook uncontrollably, and the tea inside immediately spilled on his chest, soaking his clothes. Liu Zheng wiped the tea stains on his chest with a tissue and sighed. This is troublesome. Next to him, the woman who wanted to ask Luo Yan to hand over the dragon elephant nodded. In half an hour, Tang Yan, Huo Long, Liu Chun's He, and Zuok all fell. Tang Yan was the most exaggerated. She was at the advanced level, but she was knocked down by that student's sword. Liu Zheng crumpled up the tissue and shook his head and said, Tang Yan's defeat was not unfair. The power of that sword was obviously a unique skill. Fortunately, classmate Luo was quite measured in his attack, otherwise Tang Yan would not have fallen so easily. But that's not what I want to talk about. Guangling City directly bypassed our core and reported ZHUU and others' affairs to the city. We only learned about this after the news was passed down by the higher-ups. The higher-ups didn't even go through our core, but reached an agreement with Guangling to investigate the matter together. The people who died were from our core, but both the higher-ups and Guangling bypassed our core. There are also many people above who sneered and said that we are usually high and mighty, but in the end, an elite team was defeated by a college student. It's true that Zhang Shu and the others are upset about this matter, but they are more worried about the fact that the core was ignored. Even the core commander couldn't swallow this breath, so he asked us to go to the Red Moon base to ask for people. Liu Zheng looked at Luo Yan in the distance, holding the dragon elephant, fighting with several other figures. He said softly, if Zhang Shu and his men knock down Luo easily now, then we can make a big fuss about this. At least it can prove that a college student doesn't have such great ability, and then we have reason to doubt the authenticity of the video material in Guangling's hand. But now, Luo Yan is unexpectedly powerful. This is troublesome. If Guangling knew his ability, there is no doubt that this kid must be a must-see for the core after graduation. Now that they know we took him away, they will definitely cause trouble for the city. If the higher-ups know that we acted without authorization, the captain's life will probably be difficult. Maybe the captain will have to record a serious offense with the city. The woman was shocked. What should we do then? The person who tied the bell must untie it. Let's wait and see. If even Zhang Shu falls, then we have to find a way to compensate Luo Yan. Liu Zheng said with a smile. As long as he doesn't hate us, I can find a way to deal with the people above. That piece. The grass leaves drooped, and the wind whimpered. Now, except for Luo Yan and Zhang Shu, everyone else fell down. He couldn't get up for a while. Luo Yan's hand holding the dragon elephant was still steady, his eyes were red, and his eyes were grim. Although his clothes were torn, and there were long and short cuts on his face, chest and other parts. But there were 7 people lying around. 7 people. Faced with such a defeat, Zhang Shu found it difficult to accept. He reviewed the battle just now. As the strongest one in the team, he did not participate in the battle just now. Therefore, as a bystander, he also saw it most clearly. At the beginning of the battle, Tang Yan went out to fight alone. This female cultivator of the advanced first level was defeated by Luo Yan's Xing Feng Yan and fell to the ground. Then Huo Long of the advanced second level went out. Luo Yan opened the secret method, used Daozu and crossing Yi to deceive Huo Long, and then defeated the man with glasses with the Yan Yu Po Yun. Manu with the blessing of the secret method. Then Liu Chun's He and Zuok, 2 intermediate great perfections, joined forces. Luo Yan used the 2 footworks of Daozu and crossing Yi and dragonfly touching water alternately, and moved freely under the joint attack of the 3 people. In addition, he seemed to be able to predict the opponent's actions in advance. In the end, it was still these 3 who fell. Just now, the remaining 3 team members joined forces again, and the result was still the same. How powerful is this? This power comes from the cultivation of the advanced second level, from the endless unique skills, secret methods, combat skills, and footwork. It is really hard to imagine that this student was just a survivor wandering on the surface more than a year ago, an ordinary person. And now, Luo Yan showed an extraordinary, unconventional, and unbelievable power. Chapter 653 The battle ends. Zhang Shu took a deep breath, took off his long windbreaker, and threw it aside, twisted his neck, and his whole body made crackling sounds. Come on. After you pass this level, I promise that the Penglai Corps will not bother you, because you picked a team of elite soldiers. At least, they won't bother you about this. I can't guarantee anything else. Luo Yan didn't waste his words on him. He cut in with the dragonfly touching the water, and used the combat skill Thunderbolt. Bang! Sparks flew everywhere. Zhang Shu had taken out a pair of short blades at some point, and staggered them to block the dragon elephant. The pair of short blades emitted high temperature and red light, showing that they were extraordinary. This was natural, otherwise how could they block the dragon elephant of the divine weapon level? Zhang Shu roared, and the 2 short blades sent out thousands of red streamers, drowning Luo Yan like a storm. Luo Yan's figure was shattered like a bubble. Luo Yan, holding the dragon elephant, made a move to retreat, and appeared not far from Zhang Shu. Footwork, the battle changes. Zhang Shu's face was solemn. Just now, Luo Yan relied on these 2 footworks to easily navigate the attacks of many masters. The sudden advance of dragonfly touching water often surprised Luo Yan, only when he was right in front of him. Star shifting was even more amazing. It could not only escape calmly from the opponent's fierce attack like just now, but also transform into several phantoms with the aura of the original body to interfere with judgment. With the help of these 2 footworks, Luo Yan was like a loach, elusive. Zhang Shu exhaled slightly, and suddenly a strong wind blew up, and a red beast with bared fangs appeared behind him. I don't know if it was running a skill, or activating a secret method. Zhang Shu's momentum suddenly rose, and the red sword light constructed by the double-edged sword was like mercury pouring down the ground. The sword's momentum and sword light enveloped Luo Yan's body, with a great momentum of swallowing thousands of miles like a tiger. Luo Yan's sword lightly touched the ground, and a blood-colored color immediately spread, turning the large space around him into a pool of blood in purgatory. Secret method, Blood Pagoda. Immediately, Luo Yan's body was flowing with pieces of luster-like sticky plasma, exuding an astonishing fierce aura. Dragon elephant raised, urging out a sharp sword energy, attracting the blood pool plasma. 1 sword energy and 2 blood blades attacked Zhang Shu's sword force, and then the figure flashed and crashed into it. The 2 figures were entangled like the wind. The red knife light and the golden sword light intertwined, and cracks continued to appear on the grass, and flames ignited. In the off-road vehicle, Liu Zheng put on a pair of sunglasses, interlaced his fingers, and whispered, "That's enough. Old Zhang, don't sacrifice your future for a few prides." Behind him, his adjutant, the woman, couldn't hide her surprise. From the words of the superior, it seems that Liu Zheng doesn't think much of Zhang Shu. But Zhang Shu is a 4th level advanced cultivator. Even because he can't kill, he probably won't use unique skills and some fierce methods. But the opponent was just a student from the academy, and he had already fought with 7 cultivators. Zhang Shu couldn't lose no matter what, and he wouldn't sacrifice his future. Bang! There was a violent collision sound from the grassland that turned into a battlefield in front. Liu Zheng's female adjutant looked over and clenched her hands gently. On the grassland, weeds were flying, and sparks were flying. Liu Yan staggered back, blood spurted out from his chest, shoulders, and arms, and his image was miserable. Zhang Shu was not doing well either. A long cut was made on his left hand by the dragon elephant, and blood gushed out like a fountain. Seeing this, the female adjutant stood up suddenly, her expression full of worry. "Old Zhang won't die. Sit down," Liu Zheng said softly. The female adjutant blushed, feeling embarrassed that her thoughts were seen through, and sat down quickly. On the field, Zhang Shu glanced at the wound on his arm and smiled bitterly. This kid is really rough and tough. He just tried to take the sword and stabbed Liu Yan several times, but when the blade passed through Liu Yan's skin, it felt like cutting raw cowhide. The blade felt tough and astringent, and it was obvious that Liu Yan's body had been tempered, and his physique was extremely strong. On the other hand, although he only stabbed the dragon elephant with a sword, the strange power of the blood evil made it impossible for Zhang Shu to close the wound with the strength of his muscles. In this case, he could either wait for the blood evil to disappear, or suture to stop the bleeding. Otherwise, there was no better way. But in this situation, there was obviously no chance to suture to stop the bleeding. Zhang Shu took a deep breath. "We have to fight quickly." Once the blood pagoda was opened, the longer it dragged on, the more disadvantaged Zhang Shu would be. He knew this himself. Circulating his yuan li and converting his secret method, Zhang Shu suddenly increased his speed and flashed in front of Liu Yan like a ghost and flew past his opponent's eyes with a knife. Liu Yan felt a stinging pain in his eyes and subconsciously closed his eyes. At the same time, he used the dragonfly touching water to distance himself, but Zhang Shu still cut his leg. However, Liu Yan's physical condition was improved accordingly by using dragon scales to protect important parts of his body in secret. That knife, like the previous one, only broke his skin, not his bones. At this time, Liu Yan opened his eyes. His eyes were burning and painful, and he saw Zhang Shu sliding towards him again. The dragon elephant vibrated slightly, and several small words on the sword body lit up. Zhang Shu's movements immediately became stuck, like a frame-dropping picture. He was suppressed by the dragon elephant. The power of 10 dragons and 10 elephants was like a mountain pressing on him. Not to mention the action, even the yuan li and secret techniques seemed to be suppressed. Since the beginning of the war, Liu Yan used the true power of this magic weapon for the first time. Then, Liu Yan's eyes lit up, and suddenly 2 red lightnings exploded. Zhang Shu's head suddenly hurt, as if someone had stabbed his brain with a red-hot knife and stirred it. Blood mist gushed out of his mouth and nostrils at the same time. Secret skill, Muduan Fei Han. It was also the first time that Muduan Fei Han was used in this battle. After Liu Yan's constant study and practice, it has reached perfection. Now Liu Yan uses it to shoot the violent murderer Sora into the opponent's mind through his eyes, causing a major trauma to the target's mental will. Those who do not take precautions in advance, or have weak minds, will suffer a huge blow. First use the dragon elephant to suppress it, and then use the Muduan Fei Han to impact the opponent's mind. Even though Zhang Shu is at the advanced 4th level, he has exposed a huge flaw at this moment. Liu Yan's figure flashed and crashed into Zhang Shu, and the dragon elephant slashed horizontally. "Don't stop." On the off-road vehicle, Liu Zheng and his female adjutant exclaimed at the same time. At this time, the dragon elephant changed from slashing to smashing. Liu Yan finally did not kill him, and slapped Zhang Shu's body with the blade of the heavy sword. There was a sound of fracture in Zhang Shu's body. Under the stimulation, Zhang Shu's eyes were fierce and his 2 swords flew. Blood was slashed out from Liu Yan's face and chest. Sparks flew up, and then he flew backwards. In an instant, Liu Yan's red eyes were boiling with murderous intent. Zhang Shu's 2 knives just now were aimed at taking his life. But at this time, a hand pressed on the dragon elephant, and that hand seemed to have 1,000 pounds of strength, pressing the dragon elephant so that it could no longer lift up. Taking off his sunglasses, Liu Zheng sighed. Let's stop here. Chapter 654. No comments. Brother Zhang. Zhang Shu. Seeing Zhang Shu being chopped off by Liu Yan, Liu Zheng's female adjutant and some mecha masters in the Penglai Corps, who were on good terms with Zhang Shu, rushed to the scene. Seeing that Liu Zheng had already caught Liu Yan, they were even more rude and wanted to take Liu Yan down. Stop. Liu Zheng glared at them and whispered, don't you think the loss is not big enough? Chen Lu, take Liu Yan to heal his wounds. After that, Liu Zheng walked towards Zhang Shu and gestured, don't be idle either. Tang Yan and the others are also injured. Take them down for treatment. Liu Zheng's female adjutant, a woman named Chen Lu, reluctantly said to Liu Yan, follow me. Liu Yan looked around, swept over the mecha masters who still looked unhappy, and then bent down to pick up the scabbard of dragon elephant. After putting away the heavy sword, he followed Chen Lu to an ambulance. Next, Liu Yan received a series of treatments such as debridement, disinfection, wound suturing, and bandaging. Next to him, Chen Lu bit her lips and said, you'd better pray that Zhang Shu is not dead. Brother Zhang is very popular in the Corps. If anything happens to him, the people in the Corps will eat you alive. Liu Yan raised his head, and murderous intent surged in his red eyes. They came to our door first. What? You can't afford to play. Chen Lu's eyes flashed with anger, and she wanted to say something, but then she heard Liu Zheng's voice. Zhang Shu is not dead, he just broke a few ribs, and he will be fine after a period of rest. Go down and warn those guys. Whoever dares to cause trouble for classmate Liu Yan, I will personally break their dog legs. Liu Zheng walked into the ambulance and gestured for Chen Lu to leave. After the adjutant left, he smiled bitterly. Sorry, I made a fool of myself. Chen Lu likes Liu Zheng, so she is a little nervous. Women sometimes speak without restraint. Don't blame her. Liu Yan lowered his eyes and said nothing. Liu Zheng scratched his head and said, well, wait until this matter is over. Our Corps will compensate you with a unique skill and a batch of cultivation potions. Student Luo, what do you think? Liu Yan raised his head and looked at Liu Zheng calmly. Although the Penglai Corps was in the wrong after the fight, Liu Zheng actually took out a unique skill and a batch of cultivation potions as compensation. This is definitely not just because he was in the wrong. Liu Zheng smiled and patted Liu Yan's shoulder. You can rest. You can reach the underground city tomorrow. Liu Yan nodded gently. The next day, Liu Yan sat in an off-road vehicle overlooking the underground city under the highway. Penglai Underground City was built on a huge underground lake. The urban area is located on a number of artificial islands. There is a hydroelectric power station on one of the artificial islands. It seems that part of the electricity of the underground city comes from hydropower. Liu Zheng, who was sitting next to him, pointed to a smaller artificial island on the west side. That's the judicial island of our underground city. In the next few days, classmate Liu Yan will have to stay there. But we have arranged a separate room for you, with a bathroom, toilet, garden and swimming pool. Just treat it as a vacation. Liu Yan did not respond. After many twists and turns, Liu Yan came to the judicial island. This is the judicial center of Penglai Underground City. It is not allowed to enter casually. The environment on the island is quiet and there are many flowers and trees. He was sent to a villa, and Liu Zheng personally led him into a room. It's called a room, but it's actually a suite. There is a small living room for guests. There is a bedroom and a gym. The small living room is connected to the garden, and there is a swimming pool in the garden. In addition, the bathroom, toilet, and kitchen are all available. Liu Zheng even assigned Liu Yan a housekeeper. He told her to let the housekeeper do anything she needs. Classmate Liu Yan, you take a rest first. I will come to you if there is anything. As long as you don't leave this room, no one will interfere with what you do. Liu Zheng's implication is naturally that he hopes Liu Yan will not leave this room. Liu Yan thought that Wei Fenghe would arrive in a day or two at most, so he nodded and walked into the bedroom carrying the dragon elephant. Liu Zheng called out from outside, take a shower first. I'll ask the housekeeper to bring you some clean clothes to change into. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. After Liu Zheng left, Luo Yan took a shower and changed into the clothes sent by the housekeeper. When he walked out of the living room, a freshly prepared lunch was already on the table. The housekeeper was very tactful and did not disturb him. She had already walked into the bathroom to pack up Luo Yan's changed clothes. If it weren't for the unpleasant things that happened on the way, Liu Zheng would be quite knowledgeable and interesting, and people would like to make friends with him. When he thought about this, the doorbell rang, and then the door opened by itself. Luo Yan looked up and saw Liu Zheng and the people behind him. There was the female adjutant Xin Lu, and several soldiers from the corps. And an old man. The old man was probably nearly 70 years old, with no flesh on his cheeks, a skinny body, and many dark spots of melanin on his face. He was leaning on a cane. Liu Zheng coughed dryly, his expression somewhat awkward, and introduced, "Student Luo Yan, this is ZHU's father, Mr. ZHU Kingi." As soon as he finished the introduction, the old man named ZHU Kingi pointed at Luo Yan and said, "Commander Liu, is he the student named Luo Yan?" Liu Zheng nodded. ZHU Kingi swung his cane and pretended to hit Luo Yan, but was stopped by several soldiers. ZHU Kingi's neck was red with excitement, and he pointed at Luo Yan and cursed, "You murderer! Murderer! Give me back my daughter's life! You dare to kill my daughter, even if the surname ZHU doesn't want this life, even if I have to go bankrupt, I will make you pay the price." Luo Yan's face suddenly became cold, and his eyes swept across ZHU Kingi's dry neck. Liu Zheng hurriedly said, "Mr. ZHU, calm down. This matter is currently under investigation. Mr. ZHU, don't get excited. You guys, take Mr. ZHU away." After ZHU Kingi left, Liu Zheng sighed. "As soon as we came back, this ZHU got wind of it from somewhere and clamored to see you. The ZHU family provides funding to the Corps every year, and we can't refuse, so we can only bring him to see you. Student Luo, why don't you tell me what happened in the forbidden area that day? We don't know many details from the video alone. If there are victims like ZHU Kingi who come to ask, we can stop them for you, right?" Luo Yan raised his head and wanted to take back his previous evaluation of Liu Zheng. Then he was very frugal with his words and uttered 4 words from his mouth, "No comment." Before Wei Fenghua came, he would not say a word. Liu Zheng was not angry. He smiled and said, "Okay, I'll go out to see Mr. ZHU." He walked out of the room, closed the door, and the smile on his face disappeared. Liu Zheng's face became gloomy, and then he heard someone say, "Colonel Liu, what do you mean by your corps? You brought people back like this without permission. How do you want us to explain to Guangling? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 655, All Parties. Liu Zheng looked over. In the shadow at the end of the corridor, there was the sound of high heels hitting the floor. Then a pair of seductive legs appeared in Liu Zheng's field of vision. This pair of straight long legs, covered with smooth black stockings, fully displayed the lines, while also making people's mouths dry. As the owner of this pair of legs kept walking, Liu Zheng saw more details. The pair of long legs in black stockings went up, and on the round thighs, there was a tight hip-hugging one-line skirt. On the one-line skirt, there was a white shirt with the hem gathered inside the skirt, and the towering peaks supported the shirt. Then there was the slender neck, the face that was cold and charming, the black framed glasses that added a bit of intellectuality and temptation, and finally the black hair piled on top of the head. Liu Zheng chuckled. "What wind brings Secretary Jin here?" Secretary Jin smiled and said, "I'm here to clean up your core mess. Colonel Liu, what are you thinking? Don't you know that Guangling City has requested us to wait for City Lord D to arrive and then investigate this matter together? Don't you know that we in Penglai have already agreed to Guangling's request? You guys went to the base to pick people up without saying a word. I heard that you were on the way, and some of the core newly retired people had a big fight with that student. If you ask me, is your core a little too arrogant? Liu Zheng took out a cigarette, lit it slowly, and walked towards Secretary Jin. Maybe a little. But Secretary Jin should also know that the people who died this time were from our core, so it's understandable that we are a little nervous. Besides, City Lord D of Guangling didn't give a precise date for when he would arrive. You can wait, but we can't. If we wait any longer, people's hearts will be scattered. Besides, with every passing day, there will be fewer traces in the forbidden area. When City Lord D arrives, there will be no traces in the forbidden area. What is there to investigate at that time? How can we investigate? So our core should be a little more proactive, bring the people back first, and search the forbidden area at the same time, collect clues, and preserve evidence. Did we do anything wrong? Liu Zheng stopped, and blew a puff of smoke gently at Secretary Jin. Secretary Jin's eyes were cold, avoiding the puff of smoke, and she coughed twice and said, "Save these words for the City Lord in Guangling City." Then she walked towards Liu Yan's room. Liu Zheng turned around. "What are you going to do?" "I just said, I'm here to clean up your core." Secretary Jin stopped in front of the door, unbuttoned his collar, looked at Liu Zheng and smiled. "So now, on behalf of Penglai, I want to apologize to the classmate Liu Yan inside. I hope he won't care about your core. Open the door and go in." The door closed. Liu Zheng looked at the empty corridor, took off his cigarette, and put it out in the trash can next to him. With a gloomy face, he turned and left without saying a word. Just after seeing Liu Zheng off in the room, Liu Yan was about to go to the back garden when he heard the door open, and then a beautiful figure walked in. Although she was wearing a white shirt with a black one-step skirt, this woman had a slender figure and a graceful posture. Her long legs were covered with black stockings, and her face was cold and charming. What a beautiful and elegant appearance. Liu Yan frowned. In his experience, the more beautiful a woman is, the more trouble she will cause. "Student Liu Yan, I'm Jin Kan from the City Lord Secretariat. First of all, on behalf of Penglai City, I would like to express my deepest apologies to you. The Surface Corps brought you here by force without the authorization of the City Lord. We only received the news afterwards. They really went too far this time. Please rest assured that we will definitely give you and Guangling City an explanation." The woman talked non-stop. As soon as she entered the door, her eyebrows were dancing, and she looked very self-satisfied. Sitting on the sofa, Liu Yan gently flicked the edge of the chair with his fingers, which was a sign of his impatience. Unfortunately, Jin Kan didn't understand. She walked to Liu Yan's side, bent down, leaned forward, and placed her hands on the coffee table in front of the sofa. A light scent of perfume immediately entered Liu Yan's nose. At the same time, Jin Kan's white skin and unfathomable ravines, which were exposed because the buttons on her collar were unbuttoned, also hit Liu Yan's vision without reservation. "Student Liu Yan." Jin Kan's lips were moist, and her eyes behind the black framed glasses were charming. She spoke with a slight nasal tone. "I heard that the people from the Surface Army had trouble with you on the road. Those people are vicious gods who eat people without leaving any bones. If you are willing to tell me what happened in the forbidden area, I think I can help you." Liu Yan shook his head, no comment. Jin Kan was slightly startled. Then she stretched out her hand to gently stroke the hair hanging down her cheek, and said softly, "Student Liu Yan, we are very sincere. Now in Penglai City, only the City Lord can suppress the Surface Army. But if you want us to help you, you have to give me some news, so that I can report back. If you don't want to mention what happened in the forbidden area, that's fine. But you can always tell me what the heavenly worm believes. Is it in your hand?" After turning around, putting on high heels, Jin Kan, who was half a head taller than Liu Yan, sat on the sofa, almost next to Liu Yan. She said in a soft voice, "If I don't find out anything, I will be scolded badly when I go back. Liu Yan, can you just help me?" Liu Yan looked at her expressionlessly. "Again, I have nothing to say." "Really? Okay then. Come back tomorrow." Jin Kan was not angry. She still smiled, stood up and said goodbye. When she came to the corridor, She stopped smiling and quickly buttoned her collar. You little brat, you don't understand romance. How many men have tried so hard to get close to me? You are so good. I came to your door myself, but you turned me down. At this time, her cell phone rang. After looking at the number of the incoming call, Jin Qian quickly adjusted her mood and answered the call. City Lord, it's me. He won't say. Well, I just met Liu Zheng. The surface troops have entered the forbidden area to search. They should be going for the heavenly worm pill. Yes, good. I'll be back soon. After hanging up the phone, Jin Qian came to the lobby of the villa, and a male assistant came forward. He lowered his voice and said, Secretary Jin, Jiuying's housekeeper wants to see you. Penglai City, Jiuying's mansion. Penglai Jiuying's family, in this underground city, is not a big family, but it also has certain strength. Jiuying made his fortune in the textile industry, and later invested in real estate, earning a huge fortune. When Penglai Underground City was built, he invested most of his fortune, so he got the right to live in Penglai, and was also able to participate in the infrastructure construction of Penglai. Now Jiuying has basically retired, and his business is managed by his sons. He usually stays at home. It is very rare to go to Judicial Island like today. Chapter 656, Dragon Pill. Jiuying, who had returned from the Judicial Island, and whose age was unclear, and who looked like he could step into a coffin at any moment, coughed twice and walked into the hall with a cane. Xing Feng, who had just married the 7th concubine this year, and was only 30 years old, came to greet him. She took Jiuying's hand, and said with a distressed look on her face, Master, it's just a little girl whose identity is still unclear. If she dies, she dies. Why do you need to go to the Judicial Island in person? Just let Zion and Zixen go and ask. Zion and Zixen were Jiuying's eldest and second sons. Jiuying snorted, his eyes widened on his bony face, and his eyes were like a tiger devouring people, which scared Xing Feng. What do you know? Besides, Zuu and I have done genetic testing, and it is indeed my daughter. My daughter died inexplicably. As a father, can't I make a trip for her? Xing Feng said with a look of grievance. Whatever you say, it's fine. I just feel sorry for you. Jiuying was quite fond of the 7th wife who had just married. He sighed and reached out to stroke Xing Feng's face. My tone was a little harsh. Don't blame me. I dare not. Jiuying said and walked towards the study. Xing Feng wiped the place where Jiuying had just touched with a scented towel, carefully hiding the disgust in her eyes. Arriving at the study, he dismissed the people around him. Jiuying said, Zuu only returned to her ancestral home in the past 2 years, but this girl has been wild outside and refuses to be disciplined. Actually, I don't have any feelings for her. If she dies, she dies. But when the housekeeper was sorting out her belongings a few days ago, he found a diary with some things that I care about. Xing Feng put a teacup in front of Jiuying. Ginseng tea, master, drink it while it's hot. Jiuying took a sip and said, the diary mentions something called heavenly worm pill. Zuu said it can transform an ordinary person into a master, and it can also prolong a person's life. Feng, I'm not young anymore. I'm dying soon. But I don't want to die. I still want to be with you for a few more years. So I must get this heavenly worm pill. The young man surnamed Luo killed Zuu and his group, and the heavenly worm pill must be in his hands in the end. I'm going to the Judicial Island. In addition to confirming the appearance of this young man, more importantly, it is to give housekeepers our chance to meet Secretary Jin of the City Lord Secretariat. Xing Feng asked curiously, Master, why did you ask butlers out to meet Secretary Jin? To say hello. Jiuying sneered, it's not just me who is interested in the heavenly worm pill. The surface army and the city lord's office are all very interested. At this point, who cares how Zuu and the others died? The most important thing now is to find out whether the heavenly worm pill is in the hands of that student surnamed Luo. However, whether it is the army or the city lord's office, they are the management of the underground city after all, and some things should not be intervened. I'm different. The surname Zu has done everything. I'm looking for Secretary Jin and am willing to do some dirty work. I also hope that the City Lord's office will do some covering up for me in this regard. If everything goes well, the kid surnamed Luo will be in this study tonight. I can ask him about the whereabouts of the heavenly worm pill. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yang Xuanfeng returned to her room. The door opened, and a young man in his 20s, with a bit of evil intent, walked in. Chang'an pays respects to Qi Niang. This is Zhu King's nephew, Zhang Chang'an. Seeing him, Yang Xuanfeng's eyes almost burst into tears. HMPH, who needs you to pay your respects? You might as well go see your uncle. He's very angry today. I guess he'll be in trouble for the next 2 days. Zhang Chang'an walked over and said with a smile, isn't that perfect? By the way, Qi Niang, what were you and my uncle talking about in the study? Yang Xuanfeng painted her fingers with nail polish. You men say one thing and mean another. You say nice things, but in fact, you just want to use us. Zhang Chang'an looked around and suddenly hugged Yang Xuanfeng from behind. Qi Niang, that's not true. Chang'an is sincere to you. We are going to die. If your uncle sees this, we'll both die. Zhang Chang'an said with a smile. Don't worry, I just went to visit my uncle. The old man wants to take a nap and can't get up until the evening. Yang Xuanfeng was shy. Then you have to draw the curtains. It will be embarrassing if people see us. As you wish, as you wish. Zhang Chang'an drew the curtains and closed the windows. After a moment, music sounded in the room. More than an hour later, Yang Xuanfeng, sweating profusely, leaned on Zhang Chang'an's chest. Your uncle is planning something called Heavenly Worm Pill, which is said to be able to prolong life, but it disgusts me. Every time I smell the old man's smell on him during sex, I want to vomit. He will live for a few more years, then I will not live. I don't care, Chang'an. You have to find a way for me to prevent your uncle from eating this Heavenly Worm Pill. Zhang Chang'an smiled slightly, then narrowed his eyes and said softly, Heavenly Worm Pill? Reborn? Is there really such a magical thing in the world? Asterisk 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 Judicial Island. In the room of the villa, Luo Yan looked at the pills flying and swirling in his hands. These pills were all scarlet, and there was a black shadow swirling inside, like a little dragon. Qian Long Pill. Based on the Heavenly Worm Pill, it is transformed by nourishing blood. Effect 1. When you use it yourself, when you are dying, you can instantly heal most of your injuries, suppress your pain, and unleash your potential for an hour. Effect 2. If you give it to any living being, you can transform it into a dragon servant, and because of the same blood and energy, the dragon servant will regard you as the master. Effect 3. If you use it actively and crush the Sky Dragon Pill, you can unleash the power of 100 dragons and kill all living beings within a radius of 1 kilometer. In the Wu Wang burning eyes, the above information floated above the flying pills. Luo Yan took his hand and a total of 7 Sky Dragon pills were taken into his body. He didn't expect that the lizard dragon actually gave birth to the Sky Dragon Pill after swallowing the Sky Worm pills of the Ghost Lamp. It's just that the number of Sky Worm pills was not small at that time, but now only 7 Sky Dragon pills have been bred. Moreover, Luo Yan checked and found that at least 1/3 of the vast blood energy stored in the blood pupil had been consumed. However, the effects of these Sky Dragon pills are indeed outstanding. One can be used by oneself to resolve fatal injuries, suppress pain, and unleash potential. One can transform other creatures and make them dragon servants. The third can be used actively to unleash a killing move that can kill people within a radius of 1,000 meters. Sky Dragon Pill, Sky Worm Pill. It seems that Penglai City seems to be obsessed with the Sky Worm Pill planned by Zhuu and others. Luo Yan frowned slightly. Chapter 657. The confidence to take risks. It was dark. After dinner, Luo Yan took a walk in the back garden. After digesting the food, he returned to his bedroom to meditate. It was night, so he was practicing the blood transformation sutra. He called out the blood energy stored in the blood pupil, turned it into firewood, and put it into the blood transformation sutra. The vast blood energy continued to wash Luo Yan's meridians and acupoints. When Luo Yan was practicing, the shadow of his soul appeared behind him, and the scarlet snake on his soul's left wrist was also swallowing blood energy, constantly strengthening itself. but the green dragon was lazily swimming from time to time, and more often it seemed to be taking a nap. Time passed bit by bit. When Luo Yan was about to finish practicing, suddenly, the shadow of his soul turned his head. The blurred face gave people a feeling of looking at somewhere. Luo Yan immediately felt something and stopped practicing. He stood up and looked out the window. In the shadowy jungle in the distance, a dazzling fire suddenly lit up. Then there was an explosion, and blazing flames spurted everywhere, forming a sea of fire. What's going on? One of our sentries was attacked. Go and have a look. Outside the villa, the guards shouted. Then there was a torrential rain of footsteps. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes, and circles of fire appeared in his red eyes. Wu Wang burning eyes was activated, and he looked around. The world in his eyes became monotonous lines, and the walls could no longer block the penetration of his vision. So Luo Yan saw that a team of people sneaked in from the back of the villa. Luo Yan casually set his sights on one of them. Zhang Qian, 36 years old, ZHU Mansion Death Warrior. ZHU Mansion? ZHU Kingi? Luo Yan glanced at the other people again, and sure enough, the information of these people all had the words ZHU Mansion Death Warrior. Dragon Elephant immediately came into Luo Yan's hands, and he set his sights on the man, named Zhang Qian again. Peep into the voice of the heart. Team 1 has successfully distracted the attention of the villa guards. But we don't have much time left, 10 minutes, no, only 5 minutes at most. Mr. ZHU wants to capture him alive, which undoubtedly increases the difficulty. Fortunately, this time Mr. ZHU brought the Sumeru Misty Smoke. Even a cultivator in the Tangxuan realm will fall into an endless illusion after inhaling it. Without this thing, it would be very difficult to capture a high-level realm alive. We are here, let's start. In a blink of an eye, those ZHU Mansion's Death Warriors have arrived outside the gate. In an instant, Luo Yan changed his mind. With a loose hand, the dragon elephant fell on the bed and was covered by the sheets he pulled over. He walked out of the bedroom. He saw that the door of the living room was violently broken open and several grenade-like objects were thrown in. As soon as they fell to the ground, they immediately sprayed thick smoke. Luo Yan's eyes were red, showing a golden halo, and his figure flashed out of the smoke, and he hit one of the death warriors in the chest with a knee, causing the other's chest to break. Bang! The assassin flew backwards and hit the wall of the corridor. In the corridor, several assassins spread out, blocking the passages on both sides with rifles and grenades. They exchanged fire with the remaining guards of the villa. Luo Yan rushed into the assassins of ZHU Mansion like a tiger into a flock of sheep, punching and kicking, and assassins wearing gas masks kept flying out. Some of the hands and feet were even twisted into strange shapes. But after knocking down several people, Luo Yan seemed to be staggering because of inhaling the smoke, and was finally hit by an assassin from behind. Luo Yan closed his eyes and fell to the ground. An assassin immediately carried him up and retreated quickly. Almost at the moment when the assassin carried Luo Yan and started, Luo Yan woke up. He secretly said, "Awesome." Originally, he was confident that he had the dragon blood essence, and this lizard dragon blood essence was not afraid of even poison, let alone a mere smoke. But he didn't expect that he was actually confused by the smoke just now, so he was hit by a stick from behind. Fortunately, this dragon blood essence dissolved the smoke in a blink of an eye, and even swallowed some secretly. At this moment, Luo Yan closed his eyes, but he could hear the sound of wind, gunshots, and exclamations. He deliberately failed to be captured in order to see what ZHU Kingi was up to. At the same time, he wanted to use this incident to disrupt the situation in Penglai City. ZHU Kingi's assassins were able to get here. Luo Yan felt that there was a lot of story. This is the judicial island, and he was personally escorted by the core. Normally, ZHU Kingi's assassins had no way to sneak into this island. Unless someone is covering ZHU Kingi, it is unknown whether it is from the Penglai core or the city lord's mansion. However, seeing ZHU Kingi should be able to figure it out. Luo Yan knew that this was a bit risky. If it were in the past, he would have taken a more conservative approach. But with the Cheyenne Long Pill, Luo Yan had the confidence to take risks. After several twists and turns, Luo Yan smelled a pungent and spicy smell, and couldn't help sneezing, and then heard someone say, Master, he's awake. Well, you go out. This was Jiuying's voice. Luo Yan first moved his eyeballs, then slowly opened his eyes, and saw that he was in a sealed room. There were no windows except for a door. There were many people standing next to him. A woman dressed up, 2 middle-aged men who looked a bit like Jiuying, and a young man in his 20s with a bit of evil. Finally, of course, it was Jiuying, who was skinny and covered with age spots. Luo Yan remained calm and activated the Wu Wang burning eyes, and then heard Jiuying say, "Little brother, I have put on a Yuanli suppression device for you. Don't waste your energy." Luo Yan certainly knew that, as soon as he was carried out of the villa, those ZHU mansion assassins put something like handcuffs on his hands. His Yuanli was immediately suppressed. But it was useless for the dragon blood essence. "We met in the daytime. Do you remember me?" Jiuying said with a cane. Luo Yan looked at the old man and said, "Why, do you want to avenge your daughter?" The woman next to him supported Jiuying and said, "Master, why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Look at this kid, he doesn't know what's good for him. Now he can't get away. After asking, just chop him up and feed him to the dogs. Why are you so polite to him?" Luo Yan looked at her. Xing Feng, 31 years old, the 7th concubine of the ZHU family. "What are you looking at, you little brat? If you look again, I'll dig your eyes out." The old man smells even stronger. It stinks. He won't ask me to sleep with him again tonight, will he? I was exhausted by Chang'an in the afternoon. I can't accompany this dead old man at night. I have to find a way to hide from him later. I'm afraid that Chang'an, that bastard, will come to my bed again at night. The woman named Xing Feng looked at the man with a bit of evil intentionally or unintentionally. Coincidentally, the young man also gave Jiuying some advice. "Uncle, this kid has seen us clearly now. We must not let him go back alive. If we really can't kill him, then after questioning him, pull out his tongue and remove his hands. Even if he is full of resentment, he can only swallow his bitterness and have no way to express it." Chapter 658. You are so pathetic. Just a few simple words, each of which was meant to put Luo Yan to death. Luo Yan could not help but look at the young man. Zhang Chang'an, 27 years old, nephew of Jiuying. Damn it, that crazy woman Xing Feng is still flirting with me at this time. Do you want to kill me? This woman is getting closer and closer to me now. I have to find an excuse to leave her. Otherwise my uncle will know that I have an affair with her, and he will kill me. If it is not to use her to get close to my uncle, who would be willing to accompany this old woman? I don't know it at all. Zajira is still better. Isn't the body of an 18 or 19-year-old better than that of a 30-year-old woman? Luo Yan was looking at Zhang Chang'an when his hair was suddenly pulled up by someone. A man with a big back-combed hair and some grey hair on his temples pulled Luo Yan's hair. He said with foam flying, "Where are you looking, kid? You are quite calm. I hope you can keep calm later." The man turned to look at Jiuying. "Dad, this kind of bastard, if you don't give him a little pain, he won't even know his last name. If it's my opinion, dig out his eyes first, then he will know what situation he is in now." Luo Yan's eyes turned and looked at the middle-aged man. Zhu Zion, 48 years old, Jiuying's eldest son. Damn, why doesn't the old man die soon? Is there really a Xianshang pill? I have to find a way to get it. Otherwise, if the old man eats it, he will live a few more years. Maybe I will die, and he will not die. Then when can I get ahead? Jiuying said at the end, and the other middle-aged man said with a smile, "Big brother, you'll scare the kids. Little classmate, I'll just say it straight. You killed our sister. This is a blood feud. But if you tell us where the heavenly worm pill that ZHU is looking for is it in your hands? If you help us get the heavenly worm pill, Uncle promises that you will be completely fine. But if you keep silent, Uncle can't protect you." Luo Yan looked at him. Zhu Zixan, 45 years old, the second son of Jiuying. Big brother is very anxious, and seems to be more anxious to get the heavenly worm pill than the old man. That's right, he's afraid that, if the old man lives a few more years, he won't be able to survive. Haha, I think so too. Big brother probably didn't expect that the woman outside would add something to the ginseng soup that he stewed for him every week. If he drinks it for another year and a half, big brother will be hopeless, and then this family will be mine. Taking his eyes off ZHU Zixon, Luo Yan looked at everyone in the room. He closed his eyes and said softly, "You are so pitiful." Everyone, including ZHU Kingi, was stunned. Luo Yan opened his eyes again and looked at the skinny old man. "Your woman had an affair with your nephew, but you were kept in the dark. Your 2 sons are eager for you to die soon, and they both want to take the Xianchang pill for themselves." ZHU Kingi shook his body and turned to look at Yang Xuanfeng next to him. Yang Xuanfeng's body trembled and then said, "Master, don't listen to his nonsense." Hearing this, Luo Yan looked at the woman and said, "You are also very pitiful. You like that Zhang guy so much, but you don't know that he is just using you. He doesn't like you at all. He likes a girl named Jia." Yang Xuanfeng widened her eyes and looked at Zhang Changan. "You bastard. Didn't you say that you have nothing to do with that woman surnamed Zia?" Zhang Changan took 2 steps back and looked at Luo Yan in disbelief. What's wrong with you?" ZHU Zan pulled Luo Yan's hair and said, "Boy, you are still trying to sow discord between us when you are about to die." Luo Yan looked at him and said, "Is the weekly ginseng soup delicious? There are additives in it. You should thank your brother. He takes good care of you as an elder brother." ZHU Zan was startled, let go of his hand, turned and looked at ZHU Zixon. "Second brother, could it be that you asked Jingjing to cook the soup? I was wondering why you are so enthusiastic and always persuade me to drink the soup cooked by Jingjing." ZHU Zan roared and rushed over, pinning ZHU Zixon to the ground. The room was in chaos. Yang Xuanfeng chased Zhang Changan, and ZHU Zan and his brother wrestled. ZHU Kingi closed his eyes and slammed his cane. "Shut up." The old man shook his head and sighed. "It's unfortunate for our family. It's unfortunate for our family. I'll settle this account with you later." ZHU Kingi looked at Luo Yan again. "Little brother, you have good means. Who told you all these things? You are an outsider. There is no reason for you to know everything about my ZHU family. Is it the Bei family? Or the Jin family? Or the core? But it doesn't matter. Now I just want to know the whereabouts of the heavenly worm pill. Is it in your hands? Hand it over, and I will let you die quickly." Luo Yan looked at him, and his hands tied behind his back gently moved left and right, and the handcuffs separated. The suppression device on the handcuffs suddenly failed, and Luo Yan's vitality was fully restored. He looked at Yang Xuanfeng first. The shadow under the woman was squirming. A thin sword shadow rose from the ground and instantly touched Yang Xuanfeng's white neck. Yang Xuanfeng stopped moving, then covered her neck and retreated repeatedly. Blood gushed out from her fingers. Luo Yan stood up at this time, gently took off the handcuffs, and threw them on the ground. "First of all, there is no more Xian Changdan. There is not a single one left." Luo Yan raised his head and looked at ZHU Kingi, who was retreating repeatedly. "Secondly, I was captured voluntarily. I have some questions that I want to ask you." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Changan sat down on the ground with a plop and said with a pale face, "Dead. Yang Xuanfeng is dead. Uncle Qi Niang is dead." Zhang Changan looked at Luo Yan suddenly, as if he understood something. He shouted, used his hands and feet, and rolled and crawled towards the door. A figure flashed. A foot enlarged infinitely in Zhang Changan's eyes. ZHU Kingi and the other 2 watched as Luo Yan flashed to the door and kicked Zhang Changan's skull, sending him flying next to Yang Xuanfeng's body. ZHU Zan shuddered. He was frightened by Luo Yan's cruel behavior. He suddenly shouted, Zhang Qian, come in." Before he finished speaking, a figure appeared in front of him. Luo Yan reached out and grabbed ZHU Zan's hair. He pulled his head and slammed it against the wall. Bang! The wall was dented. ZHU Zan opened his eyes wide and his body slowly slid down. Bloodstains extended from the dent all the way down. ZHU Kingi only reacted at this time. The old man suddenly pulled out his cane. It turned out that the handle of the cane was actually a gun. ZHU Kingi immediately pointed the gun at Luo Yan. Luo Yan stretched out his hand and pulled ZHU Zixon over. Bang! ZHU Kingi fired, and the bullet hit ZHU Zixon's chest. The middle-aged man widened his eyes, reached out and touched his chest, and looked again. His palm was covered in blood. Chapter 659. Way of Survival. Seeing that he had shot his own son, ZHU Kingi was a little dazed. Luo Yan had taken the opportunity to approach him, and one hand was on his crutch, and the pistol, that was transformed into the shape of a handle, immediately deformed. When Luo Yan let go of his hand again, broken parts fell all over the floor. At this time, the door opened, and Zhang Kan and other assassins rushed in. ZHU Kingi came to his senses at this time, waved his hand and shouted, "Get out, all get out." Zhang Kan and others looked at each other, but still retreated and closed the door. After the door was closed, ZHU Kingi seemed to have let out a sigh of relief. The old man shook, and sat down on a sofa. Luo Yan walked to Zhang Chang'an's body, fumbled around, and found a mobile phone. He turned on the recording function, then looked at ZHU Kingi and said, "Judicial Island is not an ordinary place. Even for you, it should be difficult to send people in." Before Luo Yan really asked, ZHU Kingi's face was at hen and said, "It was Jin Kyan. I bribed her, and she found a way to let my people in." Oh. The beautiful secretary with long legs and big breasts appeared in front of Luo Yan. Why did she do this? ZHU Kingi sneered. "It's all for the heavenly worm pill. Do you think I'm the only one interested in it? No, besides me, who in the Penglai Corps and the City Lord's office is not interested in the heavenly worm pill? Especially after they read the diary I found. ZHU's diary. It records the magical power of the heavenly worm pill. So many people are flocking to it. Jin Kyan made it easy for me, and it was naturally for the heavenly worm pill. It's not easy for them to do this, but I don't care. I'm not afraid that they will put all the blame on me afterwards. I just want to find the heavenly worm pill. I want to live a few more years." ZHU Kingi looked at Luo Yan. "Student Luo, if you are willing to let me go and give me a heavenly worm pill, I can hand over the ZHU family's property to you. I'm serious. I'm sick, very seriously ill, and I'm dying soon. Maybe you think it's funny, why am I so afraid of death? But when you are like me, you will know that life is so precious. I don't want to die. As long as I can survive, I don't want anything." Luo Yan was unmoved. He said lightly, "I didn't lie to you. There are really no more Cheyenne Chang pills." What he didn't say was, they have now been refined into Cheyenne Long pills. Cheyenne Long pills can turn ZHU Kingi into a dragon servant, but there are only 7 of them, and each one is extremely precious. Luo Yan is not yet extravagant enough to invest such resources in an old man. ZHU Kingi couldn't help but sigh. Luo Yan also asked what he wanted and stood up. After backing up the video, he sent a copy to Wei Fenghua. Then he looked at the old man. The sword shadow passed through his neck. Luo Yan walked out of the door without looking back. Asterisk 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 hurry up. What are you doing? People actually kidnapped Luo Yan. A car was speeding on the road. In the car, Liu Zheng was not as graceful as usual. Now this corps colonel was furious. He put down his phone and urged the driver again. Adjutant Chen Lu, who was sitting in the back car, said, "The on-site investigation report is out. The drug components of Sumeru smoke were found in Luo Yan's room. Luo Yan should have inhaled the smoke, so he was taken away." Liu Zheng clenched his fist and pounded the center console of the car. Not many people can get Sumeru smoke. Considering the motive, it must have been done by that old ghost ZHU Kingi. This old guy is very shrewd. He just received the news when we returned to the underground city and pestered to see Luo Yan. And not long ago, this old man frequently went in and out of the city lord's office and met Jin Kyan several times. Chen Lu whispered, "Jin Kyan also went to the judicial island today. It can't be." Liu Zheng said in a deep voice, "Don't talk nonsense about things without evidence, and even if there is evidence, this matter can only be suppressed, and the blame can only be put on the surname ZHU. Otherwise, we will have a falling out with the city lord's office, and now is not the time." At this moment, a fire suddenly lit up outside the car window. Liu Zheng looked out and saw a building on fire in the distance. Flames kept coming out of the windows and thick smoke rose into the air. Chen Lu exclaimed softly, "Isn't that ZHU's house?" Liug's face was extremely gloomy. In a blink of an eye, they arrived at ZHU's house. In ZHU's house, servants and helpers were screaming and running out of the door. But the fire inside did not spread further. Liu Zheng frowned and said to Chen Lu, "Send 2 teams over, notify the fire department, and let them rush over to put out the fire." Then he entered ZHU's house. Not far from the entrance, he saw Luo Yan. Luo Yan was squatting in a fountain outside the main building, washing his hands. In the light of the fire, Liu Zheng could see clearly that the water in the pool had turned red. Liu Zheng's temples bulged and throbbed. He walked over and said, "Are you okay?" Luo Yan looked up and saw that it was Liu Zheng, and he said as a response. Liu Zheng looked at the main building which was still burning. "What happened?" "I was knocked out on Judicial Island. When I woke up, I was already here. ZHU Kingi sent someone to kidnap me. They wanted to interrogate me about the heavenly worm pill. In self-defense, I had no choice but to take action." "Oh, right." Luo Yan wiped his hands on his clothes, then took out Zhang Chang'an's mobile phone, turned on the video, and handed it to Liu Zheng. Liu Zheng took it. Seeing ZHU Kingi in the video, he said, "It was Jin Qian. I bribed her, and she found a way to get my people in." Liu Zheng closed his eyes with a headache. Then he listened to Luo Yan again. "I have sent a copy of the video to my mentor." Liu Zheng suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Luo Yan. After staring at him for a while, he smiled bitterly. "Student Luo, do you not trust our core?" Luo Yan stood up. "Not really, I'm just worried that it will be difficult for you. In the end, it will only make a big thing small, and a small thing nothing. Then I was caught for nothing tonight." Liu Zheng's mouth twitched slightly. "Did you get caught on purpose?" Luo Yan did not answer, but said, "Where are we going now?" Liu Zheng sighed and said, "You can't stay on Judicial Island. I'll find you a new place." "Okay." When the two walked out of ZHU's house, Liu Zheng whispered, "Are all the people dead?" Luo Yan said calmly, "Just the relevant people." Liu Zheng shook his head and said, "That's not a small number of people, Student Luo. You are very cruel." Luo Yan stopped, looked back at him and said, "If I wasn't cruel, I'm afraid I would have died a long time ago." Liu Zheng was silent for a while. Then he called Chen Lu over. "Take Student Luo to the hotel, and let our people guard it this time." Chapter 660, Tensions. The ZHU mansion caught fire, and ZHU Kingi, including his 2 sons, a nephew, and a concubine, all died. The news spread throughout Penglai the next day. The ZHU family of Penglai is also a well-known figure. Such an incident naturally attracted a lot of attention. People who don't know the truth followed suit and watched the fun. And those who can get to know the truth wisely chose to turn a deaf ear and not wade into this muddy water. On this day, Weni Fenghua arrived in Penglai. Weni Fenghua did not come alone. He also brought Zhao Yiden and the student union president Liu Ruohan. After arriving in Penglai city, Weni Fenghua went to the Mecha Academy in Penglai alone, while teachers Zhao Yiden and Liu Ruohan went to see Luo Yan. Yingzhou Academy. After Weni Fenghua arrived, he was taken directly to the principal's office. He met the principal of the academy, Yuan Mingde. Yuan Mingde looked about the same age as Pan Rinfeng, but much more serious than Pan Rinfeng. He wore a dark grey Zhongshan suit, with sparse white hair and a few black spots on his face. The principal's office was very simply decorated with antique style. The most eye-catching thing was that there was an ice jar in the room, which looked like a square copper box. It had 9 ears and 4 legs, and it was emitting cold air, making the room cool. Weni Fenghua handed the video that Luo Yan had sent last night to Yuan Mingde. After reading it, Yuan Mingde shook his head and said, "This time, the underground city has gone too far. The Mecha academies in the north and south are supervised by the Giant Beast Strategic Office. The purpose of establishing the academy is to send Mecha divisions to the Strategic Office and all underground cities to fight against the giant beasts. The Strategic Office has clear regulations that students are valuable talents of the academy, and even the Strategic Office, no one or any group may frame students or even put them in danger. Although this rule may not be implemented by many people, at least, the management of the underground city should not trample on this rule. but now they are actually using these methods to treat the students of the academy for some external things. Yuan Ming returned the phone to Wei Fenghe. Don't worry, the Mecha Academy should be of the same blood, not to mention that the underground city has crossed the line this time. We, Lingzhou Academy, will support you unconditionally. Wei Fenghe stood up, tidied his clothes, and bowed slightly to the old man. Thank you. In Guangling, Dizeng had asked Liang Jian to bring 2 mecha teams to come, but they couldn't arrive in a short time. Although Wei Fenghe came, he was alone and weak, not enough to compete with the underground city management and the surface army. So as soon as he arrived in the underground city, he visited Lingzhou College, met Yuan Ming, and got the support of the college. In this way, even if Luo Yan could not be rescued, at least it could ensure that Peng Lei would not dare to accuse Luo Yan before the people from Guangling arrived. After leaving Lingzhou College, Wei Fenghe went to find Luo Yan. Yuan Ming asked the college's director of teaching Wang Ying to go with him. When Wei Fenghe and the others arrived at the Xianhe Hotel, where Luo Yan was, they found that the door of the hotel was full of fully armed soldiers, and there were several cars next to it. One of them was a black escort car, and the others were off-road vehicles with anti-aircraft guns. Wei Fenghe's pupils shrank slightly, and he glanced at a logo on the vehicle, which was obviously the logo of the underground city's surface army. Communication. Our underground city will have a surface mecha corps and a surface army. The two belong to different systems. The former targets the giant beasts, while the latter's job is to delay the giant beasts as much as possible before the mecha arrives, or to drive away the parasite swarms. The security of the underground city falls on the Underground Security Bureau headed by the Security Department. But now, vehicles and personnel of the surface army have appeared in the underground city, and they are also in the Xianhe Hotel, where Luo Yan is. What does this mean? Wei Fenghe knows very well. He exchanged glances with the dean of the Lingzhou College, and then immediately stepped forward. Naturally, before they stepped forward, a soldier stopped them. Wang Ying immediately stepped forward to show his identity. The Mecha College has a special identity, so the soldier did not dare to stop him. After letting him go, he went to inform his superiors. As soon as Wei Fenghe and the others walked into the hotel lobby, they saw that the two teams were on the verge of a fight and the atmosphere was tense. I say again, the investigation of classmate Luo Yan has not officially started yet, and you, the surface army, have no right to arrest people. Liu Zheng's temples bulged, veins bulged on his forehead, and he confronted the other side of the lobby with his adjutant Shenlu and several mecha divisions. Behind Liu Zheng, Zhao Yiden and Liu Ruohan stood with Luo Yan. As a teacher of Basin Academy, Zhao Yiden was indignant, and had even pulled up his sleeves. It seemed that he was going to fight if they disagreed. Wei Fenghe and Wang Ying hurried forward. Liu Ruohan breathed a sigh of relief when she saw him coming. Luo Yan, are you okay? Wei Fenghe glanced at Luo Yan. Luo Yan shook his head, indicating that he was fine. Wei Fenghe asked, what happened? Liu Ruohan calmly recounted what happened. It turned out that she and Zhao Yiden met Luo Yan smoothly after arriving at the hotel. The Peng Lei Corps was also very polite, which made them feel that they could solve the matter quickly. But just 10 minutes ago, the surface army suddenly blocked the hotel and then arrested Luo Yan for being suspected of being involved in the ZHU family massacre. The Mecha Corps quickly notified their superiors, and Liu Zheng hurried over, and the scene that Wei Fenghe saw now happened. After hearing this, Wang Ying whispered to Wei Fenghe, in the underground city, the security department and the surface army have close relations with the city lord. This is obviously the city lord's instruction, and it is the surface army that came, not the underground security bureau or the security department. Obviously they are afraid that the Mecha Corps will get wind of it. To be honest, in our underground city, the city lord's office and the Mecha Corps have always been at odds with each other. But before, they were just competing secretly, but now, it seems that they are going to tear each other apart. Wei Fenghe frowned, feeling more and more that this disturbance was getting bigger and bigger. Perhaps, from the beginning, the city lord's office, the surface Mecha Corps, and ZHU Kingi were all thinking about the heavenly worm pill. But now, with the destruction of the ZHU family as the fuse, this fire is likely to burn more and more, and the heavenly worm pill is no longer important. Next is the confrontation between the two factions in the underground city. Luo Yan has become a tool for the two sides to wrestle, and is likely to become a victim of the confrontation between the two sides. At this time, an officer from the surface army came out and said, "Colonel Liu, we have no right to interfere in the forbidden area. We will not interfere in the investigation. But the ZHU family was massacred last night. This matter has caused a lot of trouble in the city, and everyone is worried. Last night, more than one person saw classmate Luo Yan coming out of the ZHU family. So we have sufficient reason to suspect that classmate Luo Yan is related to the ZHU family massacre. One thing is another. We don't care about the investigation of the forbidden area. But he must cooperate with the investigation of the ZHU family massacre. This is an arrest warrant issued by the City Lord's office. Are you going to disobey the law?" Chapter 661, Debut. The City Lord's arrest warrant. Disobeying the law. With such a huge hat pressing down on him, Liu Xing was not suffocated. Instead, he was really angry. Just now, his temples were swollen, his eyebrows were bulging, and he looked like a corps colonel who was very angry. Now his breath is restrained, his temples are no longer swollen, and his eyebrows are relaxed. Even his clenched fists are relaxed, as if he has given up resistance. However, people who are familiar with him, such as Adjutant Xin Lu, subconsciously took a step back, because she knew that Liu Xing was really angry now, not just pretending just now. Liu Xing glanced at the surface officer indifferently. The latter's scalp suddenly exploded, and he felt a terrifying feeling that his body would be torn apart in the next moment. This made the officer take a step back. Then he heard Liu Xing speak slowly. "Arrest? What's the reason?" The ground officer was frightened by Liu Xing's momentum and said dryly, "Luo Yan is suspected of killing the ZHU family." "Not suspected." Liu Xing took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, picked up one of them, lit it and took a puff. Then he slowly blew out a smoke ring. "He killed the people. I confirmed it last night. ZHU Kingyi and his 3 sons, the 7th concubine Yang Xuanfeng, and a nephew Zhang Chang'an. In addition, there are 11 death warriors trained by ZHU Kingyi. 16 people in total. All killed by Luo Yan." Wen Fenghua narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Liu Xing, then smiled again, as if he had figured something out. The ground officer reacted at this time and knew that he was scared away by Liu Xing, and his face was burning. Hearing Liu Xing's words, he said angrily, "In this case, Colonel Liu, please get out of the way and don't interfere with our actions. Now, I want to arrest Luo Yan for killing 16 residents of the underground city." Liu Xing laughed. "Commander Zhao, don't be impatient. I haven't finished my words yet." Liu Xing laughed so hard that the officer surnamed Zhao was embarrassed. The colonel of the Mecha Corps stopped laughing and blew a puff of smoke in the officer surnamed Zhao's face. There is a premise in the incident where Luo Yan killed these 16 people. Last night, the judicial island was attacked. Luo Yan was kidnapped to ZHU's mansion by ZHU Kingyi's assassins. ZHU Kingyi wanted to plant the heavenly worm pill, which posed a serious threat to Luo Yan's life and safety. Luo Yan killed people out of self-defense. In addition, the reason why ZHU Kingyi's assassins were able to sneak into the judicial island, that was because Jin Khan from the City Lord's office covered for him. ZHU Kingyi himself admitted this, and there is a video to prove it. Liu Xing winked at Chen Lu behind him, and the latter took out his mobile phone and played the video that Luo Yan had taken last night. Suddenly, not to mention Commander Zhao, even the soldiers of other surface legions looked a little strange. Liu Xing sighed. "After we got the video last night, the commander decided to put this matter on hold for the time being. After all, if this video gets out, it will have a huge impact on the City Lord's office. This is related to the reputation of our Penglai. No matter what, our corps cannot slap ourselves in the face. But you are going too far. You didn't say a word about what you did, but now you want to throw dirty water on classmate Luo. This is confusing right and wrong. I just want to ask Commander Zhao and the brothers in the Surface Legion, when your personal safety is threatened, do you let others slaughter you, or rise up to resist? Officer Zhao frowned, then saw that his soldier's eyes began to waver, and he hurriedly said, "Was Luo Yan acting in self-defense, or committing premeditated murder? We don't care. Our mission is to arrest Luo Yan. As for how to try him, or conduct a detailed investigation into the incident, that is the Ministry of Security's business. But now, Colonel Liu, you have repeatedly obstructed our law enforcement work, and have seriously interfered with our operations. Now, I'm warning you for the last time. If you don't admit it, I will regard your behavior as harboring a criminal." At this time, Wang Ying, who had been silent, said calmly, "The word criminal is overused." Officer Zhao's eyelids twitched, and his gaze fell on Wang Ying. "Who are you?" "Yingzhou College." Wang Ying. After introducing himself, Wang Ying stepped forward and stood next to Liu Zheng. "President Yuan has already seen the video that Colonel Liu showed just now. President Yuan means that Luo Yan's methods may be a bit drastic, but he was surrounded at the time. As long as there is a little hesitation, the result will be that his body and head are separated. So, everything that Luo Yan did is understandable. And everything must be based on cause and effect. If the ZHU family had not sneaked into the judicial island for their own desires and kidnapped Luo Yan, would the ZHU family have suffered such a disaster? Therefore, on behalf of Yingzhou College, I demand that Luo Yan be treated fairly, justly, and openly. The investigation of him needs to be jointly participated by the personnel of our college, the Mecha Corps and the City Lord's office. And before that, it is necessary to investigate Jin Qian, the secretary of the City Lord's office, first. If it weren't for her, ZHU King's people would not have sneaked into the judicial island. If she is not investigated first, this matter is really hard to convince people." Officer Zhao suddenly felt a headache. It was not easy enough to deal with the Mecha Corps, and now Yingzhou College has also intervened. Moreover, Wang Ying also asked to investigate Jin Qian in the City Lord's office first. If it is proven that Jin Qian colluded with ZHU Kingi, which led to Luo Yan being kidnapped, then what Luo Yan did in ZHU's mansion can be labeled as self-defense. At that time, the Mecha Corps and Yingzhou Academy will be in operation. Even if the City Lord's office insists on it, in the end, at most it will be charged with excessive self-defense, a minor crime. Just as Officer Zhao was hesitating, a voice rang out. "Haha, you said that I colluded with ZHU Kingi? Mr. Wang, your academy's hat is a bit too big." In the hotel lobby, the eyes of several people moved together and fell on a woman. The secretary of the City Lord's office, Jin Qian. She was wearing a beige suit and high heels today, and walked into the hotel with a team of people. When she came nearby, an assistant took the coat that Jin Qian took off. The woman lightly lifted her black framed glasses with her fingers, and said with a smile, "This is just ZHU King's one-sided statement. Yingzhou College will not convict me, just because of this sentence, right? You said that I colluded with ZHU Kingi. Where is the evidence? I don't think you have direct evidence at hand, but it is a foregone conclusion that classmate Luo killed his entire family. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 662 Temporary Escape. Liu Zheng's face was gloomy. It was not because of Jin Qian's "it's a done deal" that the matter would go back to whether Luo Yan was actively plotting or passively defending himself. It was because Jin Qian appeared here. Last night, after getting Luo Yan's video, Liu Zheng went straight back to the Corps and asked the Corps commander to watch the video. After watching the video, the Corps commander sent a copy to the City Lord's office, but he did not make any requests. Liu Zheng was accustomed to this kind of thing. Simply put, the Penglai City Lord's office and the Mecha Corps have never been on good terms. But many times, they just fight under the table and never bring it to the table. The purpose of the Mecha Corps giving the video to the City Lord's office was also very simple, that is, to warn. Normally, the City Lord's office would dismiss Jin Qian and investigate her today, and in the end, Luo Yan's killing of the ZHU family would be left unresolved. However, First, the surface army was strong enough to arrest Luo Yan, and now Jin Khan appeared in the hotel. This shows one thing. The City Lord's office has made up its mind to bring some things to the table and solve them. Liu Zheng took a deep breath and smelled a hint of the coming storm. At this time, Wang Ying naturally stood up to argue with Jin Khan. Just as the two sides were arguing over the arrest of Luo Yan, there was another commotion outside the hotel. Then, a team of people walked into the hotel. The team was all wearing black suits, but with a golden badge on their collars. The badge had a pattern of a sword and a giant beast. Giant Beast Strategic Mansion. Seeing this pattern, a resounding name flashed through almost everyone's mind. At the same time, Liu Zheng, Jin Khan, Wang Ying, and even Luo Yan, Weni Fenghe and others, all were puzzled. How come people from the Giant Beast Strategic Mansion are here too? At this time, Luo Yan saw an acquaintance. The man was tall and thin, with bright eyes, and there seemed to be a flame burning in his eyes. It was Xing Feng, who had met him once in the college library that day. Xing Feng was Jia Mao's security supervisor, and he came to the college to pick up Lin Wei that day. Luo Yan didn't know what was going on at the time and wanted to stop him. Later, after Lin Wei explained, they knew that they were not enemies. I didn't expect to see him again today. When the people from the Giant Beast Strategic House arrived, Jin Khan and Liu Zheng looked respectful, but also a little confused. As the City Lord's office and secretary, Jin Khan could represent the City Lord in many cases, so she took the initiative to step forward. With a smile, she asked, "Everyone from the strategic house, why are you here?" Xing Feng glanced at him, then looked at Luo Yan. "We are here to pick up classmate Luo Yan." Jin Khan was stunned, and Liu Zheng was also dumbfounded. He couldn't figure out what the relationship between Luo Yan and the strategic house was. Not to mention them, Luo Yan himself was also confused. Xing Feng continued, "Drive Jia Mao has some doubts, and would like to ask classmate Luo to answer them in person. Classmate Luo, if you have nothing to do, come with us." "Wait." Jin Khan shouted, "He can't leave. This sir, Luo Yan is suspected of a family annihilation incident and needs to be investigated now." Xing Feng glanced at the woman indifferently. "We have heard about this matter. We also know how classmate Luo Yan is in Penglai City. We don't care how you all operate here, but now classmate Luo Yan must come with us." According to the third paragraph of Article 7 of the Civilization Survival Law formulated by the Strategic Palace, when it comes to the survival of civilization, the survival of civilization is above all else. The survival of civilization should be put in the first sequence, and other events should give way to this. If Penglai has any objections, please negotiate with the Strategic Palace through relevant channels. But now, if anyone dares to stop us from taking classmate Luo away, it will be regarded as a provocation to the Civilization Survival Law, and the Strategic Palace will hold accountable. Now, do you have any opinions? Jin Khan's face changed, and finally she smiled and stepped back and said, "This is all about the survival of civilization. How can our small Penglai have any opinions? Sir, please." Xing Feng then looked at Luo Yan. Luo Yan whispered, "Teacher Wei, I'll go with the strategic mansion." Weni Fenghe nodded and said softly, "This is a good thing. You go. You don't have to worry about the aftermath." Luo Yan raised his head, looked at Jin Khan, passed by Liu Zheng, and then walked towards Xing Feng. A moment later, the people from the Giant Beast Strategic Mansion and Luo Yan left the hotel lobby. Jin Khan took off her glasses and rubbed her eyebrows. Before coming here, she didn't expect it to end in this way. At the same time, she sighed in her heart. In the end, it was still a failure. Originally, I wanted to use Luo Yan's incident to make a fuss and put all the things that were not on the table before on the table to solve them this time. As a result, the Giant Beast Strategic Mansion intervened and took Luo Yan away from this land of right and wrong, so that the City Lord's office could not find a point of strength. In this way, all the arrangements made before became useless. I also have to deal with the anger of the Mecha Core next. This made Jin Khan feel that the gain was not worth the loss. When she put on her glasses again, she saw Liu Zheng looking at her. Jin Khan showed a charming smile. "Colonel Liu, do you want to make an appointment with me? I happen to be free tonight." Liu Zheng said with a fake smile. I can't reach you, Secretary Jin. Really? Then forget it. I have nothing to do here. If you don't have anything else, I'll take my leave first. Liu Zheng smoked another cigarette. No thanks. But, Secretary Jin, I think we will see each other again soon. Jin Qian smiled and said, I'm looking forward to it. After saying that, she turned and left. When she turned around, there was no smile on Jin Qian's face. As soon as Jin Qian left, the surface army naturally withdrew, and suddenly, the hotel no longer had the feeling of being on edge. Liu Zheng sighed at this time, turned around and said to Wei Fenghe and Wang Ying, you two, I have to rush back to the core. Then he looked at Wei Fenghe. If there is anything, you may go directly to the core to find me. After saying that, Liu Zheng winked, and Chen Lu and others followed him and left. Zhao Yiden said at this time, Director Wei, what should we do? Student Luo left with the people from the strategic palace. Should we stay in Penglai? Wei Fenghe glanced at Wang Ying and said, of course we have to stay. Colonel Liang Jian and the others should be here in the next day or two. After they arrive, we can ask Penglai to give us an explanation. Although Zhao Luo has temporarily withdrawn, this matter cannot end in such an unclear way. Wang Ying nodded. Yingzhou College will stand by you. Wei Fenghe said gratefully, thank you. Wang Ying smiled and said, this time the City Lord's office used student Luo Yan as a starting point. This precedent should not be set. Students should not become victims of this kind of struggle. This is also the reason why Principal Yuan can't stand it. You don't have to be polite, Director Wei. I believe that no college would want to see this kind of thing. Since this incident happened under the nose of Yingzhou College, we can't pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, if the students of my Yingzhou College are used by others in the future, who will speak for us? Chapter 663, Civilization Survival. The sound of the helicopter propellers was deafening. A total of 4 combat helicopters flew over the land. These steel creations cast several shadows on the lush green ground, passing over the grassland, passing the power towers that fell on the ground, and crossing an abandoned city, heading towards the direction of Jinling Underground City. On the helicopter, a water cup passed in front of Luo Yan's eyes. It was Xing Feng who handed him a cup of water. Thank you. Luo Yan took it and drank the water with a straw, and then Xing Feng's voice came from the headset. Student Luo Yan, what are you thinking about? Luo Yan looked at this man with a calm appearance and a sharp heart, and said softly, I'm thinking about what happened in Penglai City. Before yesterday, I thought that both the City Lord's office and the Mecha Corps did so many things to get the heavenly wormhole from me. But today, it seems that it's not the case. Or rather, they did think so before. But what happened in the ZHU mansion last night made them change their minds. The heavenly wormhole is no longer that important, at least to the City Lord's office. Today they just want to use me as an excuse to target the Mecha Corps. A slight smile appeared on Xing Feng's lips. That's right. In Penglai City, the forces headed by the City Lord, the Surface Corps, and the Security Department have been at odds with the Mecha Corps for a long time. The contradictions are complicated, but in the past they were just some small conflicts that broke out under the table. But today, whether it's you or the ZHU mansion incident, it has become a fuse. If we hadn't interrupted their plan, I'm afraid the Mecha Corps would have to be charged with many crimes today. Luo Yan frowned. I don't understand. Shouldn't the top priority now be to expel the giant beast? If you want to say that other people are scheming against each other, that's fine. Why would the City Lord confront the Mecha Corps? If any of them has problems, it will be a disaster for a dungeon. Xing Feng looked at the wilderness outside the window. Yes, the City Lord is responsible for the management of the dungeon, and the Corps is responsible for the safety of the dungeon. If there is a problem in either aspect, it will be a disaster for the dungeon. You, a young man, know this truth. Why don't they understand? In fact, they understand that the human heart is a very complicated thing. Power and desire, no one has ever been able to really let go. In the face of a powerful enemy, under the pressure of the external environment, people may be able to put aside their prejudices, work together, and fight the powerful enemy together. But without the pressure of the external environment, or when the external environment is not too much, the selfishness of the human heart will be highlighted and will swell. Penglai City is very lucky. In the past few years after the natural disaster, it has been blessed with good weather and good harvests. Even if a giant beast appears occasionally, it will not be a huge disaster like Changping, Qingyang, and Pingyao. To put it simply, they have been living too smoothly, and then some people can't control their hearts. Luo Yan's eyes darkened when he heard this. Seeing his somewhat depressed look, Xing Feng smiled slightly. Not all people are like this. There are countless examples of people working together to fight against the giant beasts after natural disasters. But you can't expect everyone to be selfless. It's normal for some people to be blinded by greed. In order to avoid being affected by these people in the action of expelling the giant beasts, the Strategic Office formulated the Civilization Survival Law, pointing out that the survival of civilization is above all else. The Strategic Office and the Xiangang Dragon Riders are the most powerful guarantees. In addition, do you know an interesting assessment standard for the Xiangang Dragon Riders? Luo Yan shook his head. Xing Feng said, there is an assessment standard in the Xiangang Dragon Riders, and this assessment standard is in the first sequence. That is to say, if you can't meet the standard, even if you are extremely powerful, you will not be allowed to join the Dragon Riders. This standard is whether the Dragon Riders candidate has the determination to expel the giant beasts, and whether he can put the survival of human civilization first. This is not something you can pass by just talking about it or answering some questions. It is a result of a series of strict reviews, cross-examinations from all aspects by a team of more than 100 people, and finally a vote. This is to ensure that the force of the Xiangang Dragon Riders will not be used by some selfish people. Similarly, the senior managers of the Strategic House also need to go through this series of assessments before they can enter. Even so, in the Strategic House, important decisions still need to be voted on by the senior management of the Strategic House and all the Dragon Riders, and decided by the principle of minority obeying the majority. In this way, we can try to ensure that every important decision is conducive to the survival of human civilization. Hearing Xing Feng's words, Luo Yan's eyes brightened up little by little. In the evening, Jinch City has arrived. Luo Yan had been to this city before, during the Grand Sports Meet. It was not unfamiliar, but at that time, the Grand Sports Meet was held in the Golden Scale City area. But this time, after entering the underground city, he went straight to the Zhaoshang City area. That was where the giant beast strategic mansion was located. The Zhaoshang City area, the entire city area was the scope of the strategic mansion. As soon as he entered the city area, Xing Feng led Luo Yan to the Gixu Civilization Research Room. Although it was called a research room, it was actually similar to a small surface base. There was an independent security check. After passing the security check, Luo Yan sat in a battery sightseeing car and passed through a square. On the square, there were vehicles coming and going, and researchers in white coats were busy with various instruments. The sightseeing car stopped under a building. Walking into the lobby, Luo Yan felt like visiting a historical museum. There were many display cabinets here, and there were many things such as stone tablets and slabs. These things were all covered with some strange words, which were very similar to the Tesu Wen that Luo Yan had seen. These are all things unearthed from Gixu. Of course, they are replicas. Xing Feng led the way and introduced. For more than half a century, we have explored 5,000 meters in Gixu and unearthed more than tens of millions of objects. However, for the entire Gixu, this depth is just the tip of the iceberg. Luo Yan nodded. The teacher at the academy said that the depth that our equipment can detect is about 15,000 meters, but this is still not the limit of the depth of Gixu. Yes, there are countless secrets hidden in Gixu. Dr. Jiuying believes that there must be a way to close the Yambu space in Gixu. Therefore, she has never stopped her research on Gixu. At this point, Xing Feng stood in awe. It can be seen that he respects the female doctor who is younger than him very much. P.S. In the previous 2 chapters, Jinja City was written as Jinling City, which has been corrected. Chapter 664 Mother of All Beasts. Luo Yan met Jiuying in a spacious hall. There were many pillars here, and photos were hung on each pillar. Luo Yan casually glanced at a few of them. Basically, these photos were taken in some underground space. There were rugged rocks with strange words engraved on them, and there were also severely weathered stone slabs. But the most eye-catching thing in this hole was the skeleton in the middle. The skeleton of an unknown beast was pieced together and fixed, and displayed in the hall. However, although the skeleton was not small in size, it was still far inferior to the giant beast. This is the model of No Zero, scaled down according to the proportion. You can take a photo as a souvenir. The voice sounded. Luo Yan looked over. Jiuying and Lin Wei walked over slowly. Jiuying was still the same, wearing glasses and indifferent eyes, as if she was indifferent to everything. But when looking at the model of No Zero, her eyes would flash with a kind of enthusiasm. She was wearing a white long coat with her identity card hanging on her chest, and a white shirt and black trousers inside. This time she didn't wear a cheongsam, and looked very plain. "Hello, Dr. Jia." Luo Yang nodded gently. Jiuying also responded coldly, "Hello. If you don't want to take pictures, come and sit over here." She led Luo Yan to the reception area in the corner of the hall. Xing Feng stopped outside the reception area, with his back to the three people responsible for vigilance. After sitting down, Jiuying said calmly, "You asked Xiaolin to translate some things before, and Xiaolin has already got the results. I heard from Xiaolin that these are some Gixu characters that you found from somewhere. I'm very interested, so I asked Mr. Shen to bring you here for me. Please forgive me for being abrupt." How could Luo Yan be offended? He should thank Jiuying for intervening. Otherwise, he didn't know how long he would stay in Penglai. Jiuying was not the kind of person who could speak nice words, and he didn't beat around the bush, but spoke directly. The text you asked Xiaolin to translate, after being deciphered, roughly means, "Heaven and earth are not benevolent, all things are straw dogs." Yes, this is very similar to a sentence in the Tao Te Ching, but after all, we dare not guarantee that the deciphered information is 100% correct. It is possible that the real meaning is very different from this sentence. But for now, we can only get this result. Luo Yan nodded, indicating that he could understand. Jiuying blinked and said, "But so far, this kind of text can only be found in Gixu. You probably haven't been to Gixu, so I'm very curious, where did you get these texts?" Of course, Luo Yang couldn't say that he saw it on the sword shadow in the lake, otherwise Jiuying would become interested and want to study the sword shadow, and he would be detained in the strategic palace, and the secret of the Yuanshan phantom would be exposed. So he said, "Last year, Changping City was attacked by the Sky Overlord Kun, and we from Guangling rushed to support him. I found those words in Kun's body. There is a lake in Kun's body, and these words are reflected on the surface of the lake. I used the recording function of the mecha to record it, and then I asked Lin Wei to decipher it. When I returned to school." Jiuying's expression became excited, her eyes were fanatical, and the corners of her mouth could not help but rise. "You said, there is such a scene in Kun's body? Where is the video? Send me a copy." Luo Yang coughed dryly. "I didn't save it, I deleted it." "What?" Jiuying jumped up, looking at her, as if she would pounce at any time. Seeing her so excited, Lin Wei hurriedly grabbed her. Jiuying's chest rose and fell, and after a moment she shook her head and said, "You actually deleted it. You are so stupid. But it's not your fault. After all, you don't know what this means." She sighed, sat back, and didn't say what it meant. Luo Yan thought for a moment and said, "At that time, in addition to the reflections of these ancient characters, there was also a building similar to a temple in the lake. I saw a huge mural inside." Then, Luo Yan described the scene he saw in the temple on the island in the lake that day in Kun's body. The woman stepping on Kun, the two men with blurred figures, and a towering tree, as well as the leaves and flowers on the tree, are all a universe, a world. After listening to Luo Yan's description, Jiuying and Lin Wei were both shocked. It took them about 10 seconds to digest this information. Jiuying glanced at Lin Wei and said, "Project the relevant information." Lin Wei nodded, picked up a mobile phone, and clicked on the screen. Then, several groups of pictures appeared on a wall behind them. In the middle group of pictures, a woman's figure appeared clearly. Just like what Luo Yan saw in Kun's body, this woman was wearing a gorgeous robe decorated with stars in the sky, but she was not stepping on Kun's body. Her face was also very clear, and she looked charming and beautiful, but she did not have the golden vertical pupils that Luo Yan saw that day. At that time, Luo Yan saw that the golden vertical pupil was drawn by dense and overlapping golden lines. He just stared at it for a few seconds and felt nauseous. But today, Luo Yan saw that the woman had no vertical pupils, but her face became clear. But judging from her clothes, it should be the same person. And in this group of pictures, the woman is surrounded by various beasts. There are even some half-human and half-beasts, dragons, and birds. They are full and surround the woman, almost filling the picture. The other groups of pictures are two men. One is burly and majestic, and the other is slender and elegant. One is wearing armor and holding a sword, and the other is surrounded by clouds and mist. But the same thing is that the faces of these two figures are blurred and can't be seen clearly. Who are these? Luo Yan looked at Jiuying. The person who answered was Lin Wei. These are our discoveries in Gixu. The identities of the two men are still unknown. But the woman, in the text records on some stone tablets or stone tablets in Gixu, she is called Mei Bei. Or, the mother of all beasts. Luo Yan's pupils enlarged little by little. Mei Bei, the mother of all beasts. He naturally remembered that the Black Witch believed in a witch god in the Yama space. Its name was Mei Bei. Unfortunately, because Luo Yan's authority in the Black Witch was too small, he had not been able to find any information related to Mei Bei until now. It was not until now that he knew that Mei Bei had another name. The mother of all beasts. Could it be that? Lin Wei seemed to guess what he was thinking and nodded. Yes, it is possible that the giant beast in the Yama space was created by her. Of course, because this is information deciphered from ancient texts. As for whether it is correct or not, it still has to be questioned. However, the woman you saw in Kun's body should be her. Chapter 665, Fighting Against Capital. After digesting this information, Luo Yan looked at the other pictures. What about them? Jiuying shook her head. There is no record of the two men. At least, we haven't found them yet. We have only found some murals or carvings. It is worth noting that the images of these two men have been found in many places in Gixu, and there are obvious signs of worship wherever they are. So it is certain that these two men are more revered by the ancestors than Meba. Lin Wei explained. The ancestors refer to the builders of Gixu. Teacher and other scholars believe that there should have been an ancient civilization in Gixu, and this civilization was created by the ancestors. Jiuying continued. Interestingly, the ancestors clearly had obvious hostility towards Meba, although there are not many records of Meba. But in the limited records, in addition to the mother of all beasts, the ancestors also called her the great enemy of heaven. Lin Wei clenched her fists and said, originally, we assumed that Meba and the two men worshipped by the ancestors were in a hostile relationship. But from your description today, it seems that this is not the case. Moreover, we didn't find the giant tree pattern you described in Gixu. From this, it seems that our understanding of Gixu is far from enough. The origin of the Yanfu space, the origin of the giant beasts, and so on are still hidden in the mist of time. Jiuying raised her glasses and said, that's why Gixu is worth studying. She stood up and looked at Luo Yan. Thank you for providing this information. I still have work to do. Let Xiaolin take you around. If you want to go back, tell Xing Feng, and he will take you back to Guangling City. Goodbye. With his hands in the pockets of his white coat, Jiuying left the hall. Lin Wei came over with a mobile phone and smiled faintly. Student Luo Yan, come on, I'll take you around. There are still many interesting things here. Luo Yan was very interested in Gixu. This is a place dedicated to studying Gixu civilization. Even though he should not have the authority to know some secrets due to his identity, he didn't want to miss the opportunity to visit the research institute. The two talked as they walked. Here, Lin Wei seemed very talkative. She could talk freely wherever she went, pointing at photos or some imitation stone tablets. When she came to the previous hall, Lin Wei stood in front of her imitation stone slab and pointed at the words on it. This is the original version of Zhu and Ju. It is also the first and most important visualization technique we discovered in Gixu. It laid the foundation for the cultivation system that we have now. It can be said that without it, there would be nothing behind it. Luo Yan looked at the stone slab. Of course he couldn't understand anything. Lin Wei, who was standing next to him, said solemnly, "It took countless scholars' efforts and time just to decipher the contents on this stone tablet. After it was deciphered, a large number of pioneers practiced according to the records on it. At that time, except for Gixu, where one could sense the Yuan force, it could not be sensed in other places. So there were many restrictions. The first group of people who learned the visualization technique could only practice in Gixu, and because there was no one to guide them, they were like crossing the river by feeling the stones. The number of setbacks encountered during this process is immeasurable. Moreover, the visualization technique recorded on the stone tablet is obviously not for today's humans, but for the ancestors to practice. So many situations also occurred in the process of practice. That's how it was. After continuous exploration, it was revised and simplified bit by bit. Only then did we have the current establishing the Yuan force. Now every kind of skill, every combat skill, every secret method and mysterious technique, they are the results of countless explorations and failures by our predecessors. It is precisely because of the efforts of these predecessors that we now have the capital to fight against the Behemoths. Listening to Lin Wei's words, Luo Yan couldn't help but stand in awe when he looked at the ordinary stone slab in front of him. He stayed in the strategic mansion for 2 days. On this day, Lin Wei was going back to Guangling, and Luo Yan planned to go with her. So Xing Feng personally led the team to send the two back to the underground city. In the car, Luo Yan's cell phone rang. He received a message from Wei Fenghe. On the Guangling core side, Colonel Liang Jian arrived in Penglai with 2 mecha teams. Together with Guangling's Basin Academy and Penglai's Lingsao Academy, they appealed to the Penglai City Lord's office. They demanded that the accusation that Luo Yan exterminated the ZHU family be withdrawn. Regarding this matter, Penglai's mecha corps seemed to be on the same front as Guangling. Under pressure, coupled with Guangling's operation, in the end, the Penglai City Lord's office withdrew the command control and only charged Luo Yan with the crime of excessive defense. At the same time, Luo Yan was blacklisted by Penglai City. Luo Yan was not allowed to set foot in Penglai City until he was removed from the blacklist. Next, regarding the Forbidden Land, Guangling City applied to the Strategic Office for third-party arbitration. The Strategic Office has accepted the case and assigned an investigation team to Penglai City. Next, they will enter the Forbidden Land with the personnel from Guangling and Penglai to investigate what happened on that day. However, it has been so long since the incident, and basically, there are no obvious traces in the Forbidden Land. Wei Fenghe believes that this matter will eventually come to nothing. Finally, the Penglai Mecha Corps kept its promise and gave Luo Yan a unique skill and a batch of cultivation potions as compensation. Now, Wei Fenghe sent the specific cultivation information of the unique skill 1 kill in 10 steps in the form of attachment along with the information. Luo Yan browsed through it casually and was very satisfied. The unique skill 1 kill in 10 steps is marked as requiring a high level realm or above to practice. This unique skill can only be used within 10 steps. Moreover, the shorter the distance to the target, the stronger the power. Within 3 steps, it is said to kill both gods and ghosts. Of course, this may be exaggerated. But no matter what, it is a unique skill that requires a high level to practice. Its power should be far greater than the 3 styles of looking at the sea tide. After Luo Yan memorized the training information, he planned to practice after returning to Guangling City. A few days later, Guangling City, Basin Academy. Luo Yan. Student Luo Yan. Are you okay? Why did you come back with classmate Lin Wei? Bei, Yang Lixi, Zheng Shan and others received the news and waited at the entrance of the academy early. As soon as Luo Yan walked into the academy, they surrounded him, talking in a flurry, and their concern was evident in their words. Luo Yan was calm on the surface, but he was a little moved in his heart, and he explained briefly. Then he learned from Bei that the people he rescued from the Moon Bear camp that day were basically received by the Red Moon base. However, Tao Yu and his mother asked Wei Fenghe to arrange them in the academy. Now, Tao Yu works as a handyman in the academy cafeteria. Although he doesn't make much money, at least he lives a peaceful life, which is a world of difference compared to before. After exchanging pleasantries with his classmates, Luo Yan returned to his dormitory and found the primordial stone fragment awarded by the principal. He put it together with a fragment from the ghost lantern. When the two fragments were put together, they simultaneously emitted a faint white light and vibrated. Suddenly, like magnets attracting each other, the two primordial stone fragments gathered together in Luo Yan's hands. Chapter 666. Peeping into the silver eyes. Just like last time, the two pieces of Teichu stone fragments came together and immediately merged. They emitted a faint light, and the air was filled with the faint fragrance of flowers and plants. The Teikai-like patterns on the two fragments emerged from the crystal surface, dissociating layer by layer, to form countless layers of patterns. These patterns further dissociated and turned into countless wonderful patterns. At this time, the two fragments had turned into a crystal-like jelly-like object, which squirmed and turned into a ball. So the countless symbols flying in the sky reassembled in the air, forming layers of patterns, as if embedded in the small ball according to some procedure. Finally, a symbol similar to Oracle Bone script was formed on the small ball. Teisu pattern. This symbol concealed Taiji and Yin and Yang, and the complex lines connected a pattern similar to the pupil. Then, the symbol inside the sphere lit up, and the crystal ball turned into a beam of light and hit Luo Yan's eyebrows. Just like last time, a little light lit up between Luo Yan's eyebrows, and the light spread, lighting up Luo Yan's blood vessels and nerves one by one. This piece of light was fleeting, and in a blink of an eye, Luo Yan had returned to normal. He didn't feel any changes in himself, but he knew that this was normal because he had transformed several times, so he didn't care. After a few days, when Xing Feng also came back, he brought the cultivation potion of the Penglai core, a few bottles of Yuan enhancement agent. After getting the potion, Luo Yan plunged into cultivation again, and a month passed in a blink of an eye. During this month, he threw bottles of Yuan enhancement agent into it, and the progress of Yanri Sutra was quite good. But there was still a distance to break through. However, Hua Zujing relied on the blood supply in Zhu pupil, and broke through to the third level. At the third level, Hua Zujing was considered a small success. Now Luo Yan can absorb the opponent's blood and energy when he practices the exercises, attacks, or kills the opponent. Then refine it into blood essence, which can be used to heal injuries or produce various temporary effects. This is very similar to the boiling blood of the blood pupil. Moreover, the blood transformation sutra is full of evil, which is the opposite of the Yan Yang sutra. Luo Yan even doubted whether the person who created this technique was inspired by a giant beast with similar boiling blood ability and thus created this technique. In addition, Luo Yan has basically mastered the unique skill 10 steps 1 kill obtained from the Penglai core, and can use it. The unique skill of 10 steps 1 kill emphasizes meaning rather than form. The key lies in the word kill. The heavier the murderous aura, the greater the power. With the secret method of Blood Pagoda, the power can be magnified to the limit. In addition, 10 steps 1 kill has a serious shortcoming. This unique skill can only be used to deal with a single opponent. When encountering multiple opponents, it can only be killed one by one. But with the footwork dragonfly touching the water or the star's turn, it can make up for its shortcomings as much as possible. Finally, after nearly 3 weeks, Luo Yan's Shenzang finally transformed. From the original Wu Wang burning eyes, it has transformed into the current peeping silver eyes. This name automatically appeared in Luo Yan's mind when Shenzang completed the transformation. It has a mysterious taste, and its most obvious changes that the circles of fire when the burning eyes were activated before have now turned into silver white. As for how to use it, Luo Yan has been constantly exploring for the past week and finally found some feeling in the past 1 or 2 days. At this moment, in the training hall of Basin Academy, Luo Yan is facing a combat puppet for training. He squinted his eyes slightly, and when he opened them again, circles of silver light appeared in his eyes. If you look closely at these silver halos, you will find that they are actually composed of countless tiny symbols. And those symbols are very similar to the Teishu pattern. Luo Yan opened the peeping silver eyes, and his vision suddenly changed. The world in his eyes faded and turned into monotonous black and white, which was no different from before. When he focused on the training puppet in front of him, various information and parameters kept popping up on the puppet. Height, strength, material, toughness. A simple puppet, but with an extremely complex structure. At this time, the silver light in Luo Yan's eyes flashed. Then, in his sight, the information and parameters that emerged around the training puppet suddenly gathered together to form a constantly rotating silver vortex. This vortex quickly condensed into a point and then changed and extended, forming a silver vein-like pattern that covered the entire body of the puppet. Looking at this silver pattern, Luo Yang had an epiphany. This silver pattern is the Tao. The Tao is the law, the rule, and the manifestation of the law of the existence of all things in the world. It is the cornerstone of existence, and also the skeleton. The silver eyes of peeping Tao peeks at the Tao of the existence of all things, which is also a sublimated manifestation of the digitized vision. But what can be done by peeping into the Tao of the existence of all things? Luo Yan is not clear yet. It still needs to be explored and explored. Moreover, he believes that the silver eyes of peeping Tao will not be as simple as peeping into the Tao of existence. Closing his eyes and deactivating the silver eyes, Luo Yan let out a long breath and rubbed his eyes. The Shenzhang had just completed its transformation, and Luo Yan was not used to it. Every time he opened it, he had to consume a lot of energy. It would probably take some time before he could adapt. After practicing the footwork in conjunction with the 10 steps 1 kill for a while, he scrapped more than a dozen training puppets and left the training hall. He returned to the dormitory and took a shower. When Luo Yan walked out of the bathroom, he heard the phone ring. He opened the drawer and the phone he used to contact Yukiashu rang. Luo Yan took out his phone and answered it. Yukiashu's voice with a slightly hoarse tone said, "On the 21st, the summer solstice, see you on the surface. The specific location will be told to you later. Be prepared, we are going to go to war with Huangquan." Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and then answered simply, "Okay." That night, Old City, Jude restaurant. Luo Yan, wearing a wooden mask, took the tea offered by Wenzhou and said in a deep voice, "Notify Liu and the others and ask them to be prepared. We are going to go to war with Huangquan. Also, mobilize the forces of Red Gate. It's time to show the results of our management." Wenzhou's eyes were filled with excitement. "Master, are you serious this time?" Luo Yan tapped the table with his fingers. "Of course it's real. I will leave the underground city in a few days. You stay here so that you can be taken care of in case anything happens." Wenzhou nodded. "I'll listen to you, Master. Also, contact other organizations. I will hold a banquet at Jude Building tomorrow night. Invite them to come over for a gathering." Luo Yan said indifferently, "Just say that I have something to discuss with them." Chapter 667. First courtesy, then force. The next day, in the evening, Jude Building was decorated with lights and red lanterns were hung at the door. The two sisters Sukiya were holding the pipa and singing on the second floor stage. The atmosphere was warm. Tonight, Jude Building hosted a banquet. All the big and small organizations in the old city were invited. Luo Yan stood in the quiet room, watching the faces passing by the camera through the surveillance. Among them was Uncle Yap, who was once very close to Black Owl Wancheng, and later supported Redgate after Wancheng died. Uncle Ya had a nickname of Copper Teeth when he was young. It is said that when he was fighting, his front teeth and 2 incisors on the left and right were knocked out. Later, he had 4 brass dentures, and in the subsequent fights, he used them to bite his opponents, so he got the nickname of Copper Teeth. Now he is old, and has replaced them with 4 gold teeth, but the nickname Uncle Ya has been called. Tonight, Uncle Ya is wearing reading glasses, and holding a small pipe, with a red face. He walked into the restaurant with a man in his 30s, who had dark circles around his eyes, and was dressed in a bright outfit. That was Ding Ding Gao, the boss of Ding Shengxing. Ding Shengxing was in the tobacco and alcohol business, but in fact, Xing Feng was behind Ding Shengxing. Next, the leader of Darkblood, who sold 2 old mechs to Redgate, also came. Although Yuzan was on good terms with Redgate, he didn't smile at all. He walked in with a stinky face, as if everyone owed him money. Standing next to Luo Yan, Wenzhou smiled and said, "Sir, according to your instructions, most of the important people in the old city are here tonight." Luo Yang nodded slightly. In addition, Xing Feng said that they will arrive later. Wen Zhao added. In the wooden mask, Luo Yan said calmly, when they come, please go directly to the quiet room. I have something to say to their representative alone. Wen Zhao immediately said, I know. At this time, in the surveillance, there was a commotion among the crowd at the gate. Luo Yan looked up and saw a torrent of people squeezed into the crowd. They were all young people in their early 20s, all with red scarves tied on their foreheads, squeezing into the crowd forcefully. The leader wore silver earrings, sprayed hairspray on his head, and was dressed in a weird way. His eyes unconsciously revealed a fierce taste. When they arrived at the gate of Jude building, he led 7 or 8 people into the building, while the other red scarves dispersed. They leaned against the pillars in the corners, or sat on the engine covers of some cars and smoked. This is Red Turban. I heard from Uncle Yap that they only emerged at the end of last year. They were just a few gangsters who got together from the young guys in the car wash. After Black Owl was destroyed by us at the beginning of the year, we didn't completely take over some of its businesses and territories. Some of them fell into their hands. The one walking in front just now is called Jiuying, the leader of Red Turban. He is brave and daring. After they swallowed up a piece of territory from Black Owl, they only recruited young and strong men in their 20s. In just a few months, they became a force to be reckoned with. However, these young guys are lawless. They don't give face to anyone, and don't abide by any rules. Many people have regarded them as thorns in their eyes and thorns in their flesh. Listening to Wen Zhao's explanation, Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and said, did you invite them too? Wen Zhao shook his head. No, we have never dealt with them, and they are not on the list tonight. They came uninvited. Luo Yan chuckled. So, someone wants to step on us to get attention. Red Turban, huh, aren't they here to make trouble for us? Wen Zhao asked carefully. Sir, if these young men cause trouble, how do you think you will deal with them? Luo Yan said calmly, the old rules. First courtesy and then force. Wen Zhao understood immediately. At this time, the shopkeeper knocked on the door and said that almost everyone was here. Luo Yan said, let's go. Don't let the guests wait too long. The second floor hall of Jude building was full of people. Uncle Yap, Ding Ding Sheng, Yuzhan and others sat at the main table. The rest of the people were scattered around. The young people of red scarf who were not on the list were naturally arranged to the table in the corner. At this time, the lights in the hall went out, and then a beam of light fell on the stage. Red Scarf Jiuying bit a toothpick in his mouth, and glanced at the stage. He saw Luo Yan wearing a mask and Wen Zhao bowing and nodding. Playing tricks. Jiuying said. His voice was not concealed, and he didn't care about the displeasure in the eyes of the waiters in the nearby restaurants. Applause rang out in the hall. When the applause stopped for a while, Luo Yan spoke. I'm calling you all here because I have something to tell you. Next Red Gate will have an operation on the surface. A big operation. I ask everyone here, regardless of your wealth, to send half of your people to join Red Gate. After the operation, the proceeds will be divided according to your contributions. That's all I want to say. The war with Huangquan is imminent. Luo Yan wants to transfer 70% to 80% of the Red Gate's personnel. By then, the old city will be weak, and it is hard to guarantee that others will not take advantage of it. Transferring half of the personnel from these organizations can increase their bargaining chips in the war in order to gain greater benefits. It can also prevent someone from dragging them down in the old city. As soon as Luo Yan said this, Uncle Ya stood up and expressed his opinion. It's rare for Mr. Chigi to bring us along when he does big business. The old man has nothing to say, and he must support it. Ding Ding Sheng had received instructions from Xing Feng before he came, and he smiled and said, we Ding Sheng will follow. Yuzhan had already done a big business with Hangman, and he believed in Luo Yan's credibility, so he naturally nodded and said, Angsu has no choice but to do it. With these big guys taking the lead, everyone at other tables naturally echoed him. But at this time, a voice sneered. Hangman is so powerful. With just one sentence, they want us to spend half of our wealth. They don't even want to draw a cake, but let us work hard. Boss Chigi, isn't this too domineering? Luo Yan didn't need to look to know that it was the one with the surname Zio. He glanced at Wen Zhao indifferently and walked towards the main table. There was no need for him to get involved in such trivial matters now. If Wen Zhao couldn't even solve this little trouble, he could go home and farm. Wen Zhao smiled as usual, nodded to Luo Yan, then stepped off the stage and walked towards Zhao Yi's table. The people from the red scarf stood up one by one when they saw Wen Zhao coming. Only Zhao Yi was still standing there. He watched Wen Zhao approach. Wen Zhao smiled as usual, and his fake Taoist tone could even be described as gentle, but the content was chilling. Young man, you have no right to speak here. Go home quickly. If you don't want to leave, then don't leave. Chapter 668 Hiring 9 Phoenixes. Wen Zhao greeted people with a smile. However, there was a chill in his words. Zhao Yi's eyes were fierce, but his expression was a little embarrassed. Obviously, Wen Zhao was very different from the people in the organizations he had come into contact with in the past 6 months. He came uninvited tonight. Naturally, he had expected that he would not be welcome. He did not intend to be a popular person. He came to ruin the party. Zhao Yi knew very well how he had risen in the past 6 months. The reason why Red Scarf could rise so fast was that it made a fortune in the territory of Black Owl and relied on breaking the rules and growing wildly. Today, all the organizations of all sizes in the old city received invitations from Jude Building. Zhao Yi originally thought that he would get one too. After all, the speed of the rise of Red Scarf was almost comparable to that of Red Gate. However, no one did. By the evening, no one had sent an invitation to Red Scarf. Even organizations weaker than Red Scarf got one, but Red Scarf did not. Okay, if you don't send it, I'll do it myself. So Zhao Yi came with his brothers. Of course, he was not so arrogant as to think that he could fight with the Red Gate. He just wanted to make a name for himself in Jude Building. So how can he show his face in Jude Building? The answer is very simple. Naturally, it is to give face to the host. Only in this way can there be a powerful effect. Now the effect is achieved. The people of Red Gate also came out to interfere. But it was different from what Zhao Yi imagined. Zhao Yi originally thought that in front of so many people, Red Gate should show a pattern of winning people over with virtue, no matter how much they disliked him. But unexpectedly, Wen Zhao came up and forced a murderous word into Zhao Yi. It was not right for Zhao Yi to accept it, and it was even worse not to accept it. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Wen Zhao smiled and called a waiter. Send the guests out. The waiter nodded and raised his head. Several people, please. Zhao Yi's expression changed, and finally he spit out the toothpick, stood up, and said coldly, let's go. He still didn't dare to use force in Jude Building. After all, he had heard about the whole Temple Street being stained with blood on New Year's Eve, and the cleansing took 3 days and 3 nights. Luo Yan glanced at the departing Red Scarf, and then he responded to Uncle Yan next to him. Wen Zhao came back and whispered beside Luo Yan, Master, it's done. Luo Yan was not afraid of others and said calmly, not enough. In the old city, a touch of red is enough. More is too glaring. Wen Zhao understood the meaning of the music and nodded. Tomorrow there will be no Red Scarf organization. Luo Yan then picked up the chopsticks and said to the others, everyone, please. Uncle Ya picked up a piece of beef, put it in his mouth and chewed it, and glanced at Luo Yan sitting next to him without leaving a trace. Sighing in his heart, those young people really don't know how to live or die. They dare to show off anything. Are they killing themselves now? Uncle Ya picked up another glass of wine, sipped it lightly, and felt that the wine was spicy and had an endless aftertaste. He who knows the times is a hero. If a person does not have great talent, he should hide his incompetence. Only someone like me can drink and eat meat. Otherwise, I would have eaten shit long ago. Uncle Ya laughed in his heart and stopped thinking about the Red Scarf. After 3 rounds of drinking, Wen Zhao came over. He whispered in Luo Yan's ear, Sir, Xing Feng's people are here. Luo Yan nodded, stood up and said, everyone, please excuse me for now. Came to the quiet room. In the quiet room, Guan Qi, with black hair and white clothes, was holding a mobile phone with a Go game on it. Guan Qi made a few random moves and killed a big dragon on the opposite side. At this time, Luo Yan happened to walk in. Guan Qi put away his mobile phone, stood up and said, good evening, Mr. Chigi. Luo Yan also nodded to this old acquaintance. Good evening, Miss Guan Qi. Wen Zhao asked someone to bring 2 cups of hot tea and left the room. After Luo Yan sat down, he said straight to the point, "I want to discuss business with Jiuying Feng." Guan Qi looked straight ahead and said, "I'd like to hear the details." Luo Yan said frankly, "Next, we, Hangman, will have an operation on the surface. We have to eliminate some opponents on the surface. Therefore, I want to hire Jiuying Feng." Guan Qi was not surprised, because Jiuying Feng was engaged in assassination and intelligence business. They had long noticed that Hangman had intentionally or unintentionally gathered its forces on the surface, obviously preparing for the next operation. And now, Hangman is about to take action. But no matter how Jiuying Feng investigated, she could not find out who the opponent of Hangman on the surface was. No problem. Guan Qi put aside all distractions and concentrated. "I don't know what kind of assistance Mr. Chigi needs from us. Assassination? Or intelligence support?" Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "Both." Guan Qi narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "In this case, the cost is not a small amount. 10 million deposit. After the end, we will settle the bill, based on the contribution of Jiufeng, but I guarantee that the balance will be at least 20 million. Luo Yan's words were like putting 30 million into Jiufeng's apostrophe pocket. Guan Qi's eyes sparkled, and she nodded and said, "Okay. Then, here is my contact information." She left her contact information. Luo Yan directly deposited 10 million work points into the account, designated by Guan Qi. After the work points arrived, Guan Qi stretched out her hand and said, "Mr. Chigi, happy cooperation. Happy cooperation." After letting Wen Zhao send Guan Qi away, in the quiet room, Luo Yan took off his mask and whispered, "Finally, everything is ready." Originally, in this war between the Black Witch and the Yellow Spring, Luo Yan did not intend to invest so much. But after returning from Jinch City, he changed his mind. Since the Black Witch worships Mary Bay, then there should be information about Mary Bay within this organization. Mary Bay is also known as the mother of all beasts and the great enemy of heaven. And the giant beast comes from the Yambu space. Therefore, Luo Yan guessed that he might be able to find a way to close the Yambu space from Mary Bay. However, with his current authority as a captain of the branch, he has no access to the information of Mary Bay. I'm afraid only the minister, or even the senior officials above the minister, can access this part of the information. If it is normal, let alone the levels of ZHUU, Shao Siming, and Asiming above the minister. Even the minister is out of reach for a captain like Luo Yan. But now there is an opportunity. That is the war with Huangguan. If Luo Yan can make enough contributions in this war, he will have the opportunity to become the branch minister. Becoming a branch minister can exchange for Jin Kui Lu and have the opportunity to access the information of Mary Bay. Based on such considerations, Luo Yan's thoughts and attitude towards this war have become much more positive. That's why he came up with the idea of drawing manpower from other organizations and hiring Jiufeng tonight. Chapter 669. Shortage of resources. More than half a month passed in a flash. It was the 20th. In the training hall of the academy, in front of Luo Yan, there was a pile of scrap training puppets. These were all broken by him when practicing 1 kill in 10 steps. The strongest killing range of 1 kill in 10 steps was within 3 steps. After practicing for this period of time, Luo Yan expanded the killing range to 3.5 steps. Don't underestimate this half step. This small half step is the result of half a month of hard study and practice. His goal is to expand the strongest killing range to within 5 steps. According to records, the strongest killing range of this unique skill has been expanded to 7 steps. This is very terrifying. It seems that the original killing range has been expanded by more than double. Luo Yan practiced for more than half a month and only expanded half a step. And every time he expanded 1 step, the difficulty doubled, expanding to 7 steps. Now Luo Yan dared not even think about it. Looking at the puppets on the ground, Luo Yan closed his eyes and rehearsed the scene of encountering Gaolin in his mind. After the rehearsal, he came to a conclusion. If he were to meet Gaolin now, he would not use the sword shadow and the soul, nor the transformation into a dragon posture. He would be sure to make Gaolin suffer by just using blood pagoda and 1 kill in 10 steps. By the way, Blood Pagoda has also made significant progress now. This secret method has 4 effects. Luo Yan only mastered War Will and Blood Blade before. After getting Fang Yao's notes, he used the first 2 effects more easily, and recently, he finally mastered another effect, Blood Offering. This is the symbol of the Blood Pagoda secret method, and also the core effect. The effect of Blood Offering is that now after Luo Yan activates the secret method, a layer of pagoda will appear every time the number of attacks of Blood Blade reaches 30, 70, 90, 108, 333, 666, 999. Each layer of the pagoda will increase the speed, attack power, and attack range of the user of the secret method. In theory, the highest improvement is naturally when the pagoda reaches the 7th layer. But in fact, Luo Yan can only build the pagoda to the 4th floor. That is to say, the maximum number of attacks of the Blood Blade can only reach 108 times. Even if it can exceed this number, it cannot reach the next node. Why? Because each floor of the pagoda will bring about various improvements, but the improvement is not without cost. Just like the problem of fuel consumption and power, even if technology can be used to minimize fuel consumption and increase power. However, the two must be proportional. The blood ceremony can make Luo Yan improve in all aspects, but it also consumes a lot of energy. At his current level, he can only support it to the 4th floor. To support it to the 7th floor, I'm afraid that the Tangsuan realm will not be enough. Leaving the training hall, after taking a shower, Luo Yan came to the cafeteria. As soon as he walked in, he saw Bei teasing Xiao Keitong. Look here, look here. Bei covered his face with his hands, then suddenly took his hands away and made a face at the little thing. Xiao Keitong laughed. Luo Yan walked in, and Xiao Keitong seemed to know him, and immediately stretched out his chubby palm. Bei smiled. He wants you to hold him. Luo Yan raised his eyebrows and took a step back, as if he was facing a great enemy. Little Keitong seemed to feel something, and his little face was immediately full of grievances. Bei pushed Luo Yan from behind. Just hold him for a while. Luo Yan coughed and said, I have never held a baby. It's not difficult. I'll teach you. Like this. One hand supports the baby's back, neck and head, and the other supports his little butt. Under Bei's instructions, Luo Yan clumsily held up little Keitong. It just felt different from holding a sword. The little guy in his arms was warm, soft, and milky. See, it's not difficult. Bei smiled. You don't have to be nervous at all. Luo Yan said, I'm not nervous. You're not nervous. Why are you sweating while holding a baby? Bei laughed. Luo Yan couldn't help but feel hot on his face. But fortunately at this time, a news broadcast was interrupted on the TV in the cafeteria. On the screen, you can see mecha carriers driving out of the underground city and heading for the wilderness. I heard that they are going to start attacking the number 9 forbidden area. Bei said, handing a bottle of milk to Luo Yan. Luo Yan glanced at her. Bei blinked. The two looked at each other for a while. Luo Yan said, I can't pull my hands away. At this time, Tao Yu came over. Miss Bei, please take care of Tang Tang for me. Brother Luo is here too. I'll feed him. She took Xiao Keitong from Luo Yan's arms and fed the child skillfully. The mother and son have been in the academy for more than a month. Now their lives are stable, and they don't have to worry about anything. Both Tao Yu and the child look much better than before. Luo Yan and the others exchanged a few words with her and went to get food. When they found another table to sit down, the TV was broadcasting another news. This time it was on the surface of the earth. In the camera, a small town was burning. The billowing black smoke was an ominous sign. The TV switched back to the broadcasting hall, and the host spoke in standard Mandarin. Recently, there have been multiple armed conflicts on the surface, and suspected survivors have fought over resources. Therefore, the City Lord's office calls on residents of the underground city to reduce surface activities as much as possible in the near future unless necessary. Looking at the flames and smoke on the TV screen, Luo Yan squinted his eyes slightly. On the 21st, the summer solstice. On the surface, Luo Yan was wearing a tattered cloak, with Blood Drinker and Ring Dragon on his back. He wore a wooden mask and drove a modified motorcycle across the wilderness. Last night, Yukiyoshi sent a surface coordinate. Today, she will meet with several captains there and explain the detailed plan for Huangquan that will be carried out next. It was noon. The sun was blazing. The surface temperature was above 35 degrees. The road Luoyan was driving on was steaming hot, and the cicadas were chirping in the woods in the distance. The mecha passed a signpost, under which lay a skeleton, looking ugly and hideous. When passing a town, Luoyan heard gunshots and voices in the town. A group of survivors could be vaguely seen exchanging fire. Luoyan only glanced in that direction and sped away. No other. He couldn't solve this kind of thing. After the natural disaster, although the surface town suffered serious damage, at least there were food and medicine residues. This provided the necessary conditions for the surface survivors to survive the most difficult period. However, now it has been more than 4 years since the natural disaster. Food is still okay, but medicine is used less and less. Coupled with the shortage of other resources, conflicts are inevitable. Moreover, if the situation on the surface is difficult to change, conflicts will only increase and become more frequent until the shortage of resources is alleviated. An hour later, Luoyan has seen the destination of his trip, a surface city. But at this moment, he suddenly felt the danger and suddenly stuck to the motorcycle. Almost at the same time, a streak of fire passed over his head and disappeared in an instant. Luoyan's pupils shrank slightly. There is a sniper. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.